Your black women's charity dreams belong here, Zola? Julian Croft's venomous jab ignites Blackwood's Grand Hall, slashing at Zola Vance, a black woman radiant in a royal blue gown that flares like wildfire. The chandelier's glow wavers. Elites in tuxedos and shimmering dresses freeze, some sneering, others uneasy, craving her collapse. Zola's eyes, twin flames of defiance, scorch Julian, her silence a roaring blaze that rattles the room. He, arm entwined with Blair's cold grace, laughs, certain he's broken her. But the oak doors at the hall's end thunder open, admitting Kalen Shaw, Zola's billionaire husband. What power will he wield to crush Julian's scorn? Will Zola's fire burn away their past? How will this night redefine their world? One ember sparks, ready to unleash an inferno. She's fooling the world with her black empowerment nonsense, Julian Croft's voice snarled through the sleek Manhattan penthouse, his fingers crumpling a Forbes magazine as he glared at Blair, her icy blonde hair catching the city's neon glow. The cover blazed with Zola Vance's face, her eyes fierce under the headline, Redefining Leadership, Innovate Forward's Global Impact. Julian tossed the magazine onto a glass table, its thud echoing like a challenge. She's playing the charity card, Blair, but I'll burn her down at Blackwood. Across the country, in a San Francisco office pulsing with ambition, Zola Vance leaned over a desk cluttered with reports and coffee mugs, her team's cheers still ringing from a $500 million deal with an international foundation. Innovate Forward, her nonprofit, had just secured funding to train another 1,000,000 women of color for global leadership roles. Screens around her flared with metrics. 1.5 million women empowered, $3 billion in education investments. Her royal blue blazer, tailored sharply, mirrored the gown she'd wear to Blackwood, a silent vow to stand unbowed. Yet as her assistant slid a cream-colored envelope across the desk, Blackwood Academy's gold-embossed seal glinting like a taunt, her breath caught. The past flickered, unbidden. Years ago, Julian's voice had cut deeper than any blade. Education for women? Wall Street doesn't care about your dreams, Zola, he'd sneered in their shared apartment, his cufflinks glinting as he adjusted his tie. Blair gets it. Power is money, not ideals. Zola had been a double major at Blackwood, sociology and global studies. Her passion for equity was dismissed as cute by Julian's Wall Street crowd. His indifference had eroded her. Each critique, her bold ideas, her natural curls, her unapologetic blackness, stoking a quiet fire she hadn't yet learned to wield. Their divorce was civil, a cold agreement, but his final words lingered. You'll fade, Zola. You're not built for the real world. Now that world was hers. Innovate Forward wasn't just a nonprofit, it was a revolution. Its programs reshaping boardrooms from Nairobi to New York. Yet the envelope burned in her hands, its weight heavier than paper. Blackwood was Julian's kingdom, a place where her voice had once been drowned by whispers of too much or not enough. Her fingers traced the seal, memories of classrooms where professors praised her intellect but mispronounced her name, of galas where Julian's friends offered backhanded compliments. You're so articulate for someone from your background. The fire in her chest flared, not with rage but with resolve. She didn't need to go. Her life was full, board meetings, speeches, and women whose lives she'd changed. But the invitation wasn't just a call to a reunion. It was a gauntlet, a dare to face the world that had tried to dim her light. Zola's phone buzzed, Kalen Shaw's face lighting up the screen. Her husband, a billionaire investor whose quiet power moved markets, was her anchor. You've seen the Forbes piece? His voice rumbled through the video call, warm but edged with pride. You're not just right, Zola. You're rewriting the rules. Kalen wasn't like Julian. Where Julian craved the spotlight, Kalen wielded influence like a shadow, his wealth a tool, not a trophy. He'd funded Innovate Forward's early days, not out of pity, but belief, sitting in on her strategy sessions, listening to her vision of equity with a stillness that made her feel seen. Blackwood's not ready for you, he said now, his dark eyes steady. But go, show them the future you're building. Zola's lips curved, a spark igniting. She didn't want revenge. Revenge was too small. She wanted reclamation, to walk into Blackwood not as Julian's ex-wife, but as Zola Vance, the woman whose work commanded billions and changed lives. The envelope felt lighter now, not a burden, but a fuse. She'd attend, not to prove herself to Julian, but to claim the space she'd earned. Across Manhattan, Julian's smirk faded as Blair sipped her wine, her eyes narrowing. "She'll show up, Julian," Blair said, her voice smooth but sharp. "And she'll act like she's above us." Julian's jaw tightened. Zola's Forbes cover had shaken him, its glow exposing cracks in his carefully curated empire. He'd built his life on deals and dominance, but her success, her audacity to thrive without him, gnawed at him. "She's nothing," he muttered, but his fingers betrayed him, clenching the magazine's edge. "I'll make sure everyone at Blackwood knows it." Zola stood, her office's skyline view framing her like a portrait of power. She slid the invitation into her bag, her mind already racing to the gown she'd wear. A Ghanaian designer's creation, bold and unapologetic. She wasn't returning to Blackwood to beg for a seat at their table. She was coming to build her own, one that would eclipse theirs. The fire Julian had tried to snuff out years ago was now ablaze, and she'd let it burn bright enough to blind them all. "I'm not going to Blackwood to grovel, Kaylin. I'm going to torch their stage." Zola Vance's voice crackled with defiance as she faced Kaylin Shaw across her San Francisco office, the city's skyline a mosaic of steel and ambition behind her. Her royal blue blazer, sharp as a blade, framed her like a warrior queen, her sleek black hair a banner of unapologetic strength. Kaylin, his dark eyes glinting with quiet pride, leaned against her desk, his tailored suit a study in understated power. "Then let's make sure they feel the heat," he said, his low rumble a spark to her fire. The cream-colored Blackwood invitation lay between them, no longer a taunt, but a fuse, ready to ignite. Zola had decided she wouldn't walk into Blackwood's gilded hall to beg for acceptance from Julian Croft's elitist crowd or prove her worth to the man who'd once dismissed her dreams as cute. She was going to reclaim her space, to stand as the architect of a global movement. Innovate Forward wasn't just her nonprofit. It was a revolution, empowering women of color to lead in boardrooms and parliaments, its impact measured in lives transformed and billions invested. But Blackwood was a battlefield, a place where her passion for equity had been mocked as too idealistic by professors and peers alike. Julian's voice echoed from years past, his words a cold wind. "You're wasting your brilliance on lost causes, Zola." She'd let him dim her then, softening her edges to fit his world. Never again. Kaylin's hand grazed hers, grounding her. "You've already outgrown them," he said, his voice steady but fierce. "But they don't know it yet." Together they'd crafted a plan, not just to attend, but to dominate. A $100 million donation to Blackwood's leadership program, tied to strict conditions, curricula focused on diversity, equity, and global impact, modeled on Innovate Forward's framework. It wasn't charity, it was a takeover, a way to etch Zola's vision into the institution that once tried to erase her. An email from a nervous board member had arrived that morning. "Ms. Vance, your guidance is reshaping our program." Kaylin smirked, reading it over her shoulder. "They're sweating already." Zola's mind turned to her armor for the night, a gown by a Ghanaian designer, its royal blue fabric woven with threads of gold, a nod to her heritage and a declaration of her power. She'd wear it not to dazzle, but to command, her sleek hair a crown she'd refused to tame. Years ago, Julian had winced at her natural curls, murmuring, "They're a bit much for the gala, don't you think?" She'd straightened them then, each pass of the iron a surrender. Now every choice, her hair, her gown, her presence, was a rebellion, a flame kindled by the woman she'd become. Across the country, in Manhattan's glittering cage, Julian paced his penthouse, Blair lounging on a velvet sofa, her wine glass catching the city's pulse. "She'll come, Julian," Blair said, her voice a blade cloaked in silk, "and she'll try to steal your spotlight." Julian's jaw clenched, the Forbes cover still burning in his mind. Zola's success wasn't just a surprise, it was an affront, a crack in the empire he'd built on deals and charm. He'd spent years at Blackwood basking in its approval, his mergers celebrated as triumphs while Zola's ideas were dismissed as noble but naive. Now her name was on every philanthropist's lips, her nonprofit a global force. "She's a fraud," he spat, but his eyes betrayed doubt, flicking to the invitation on his desk. "I'll make sure Blackwood sees through her." Blair's smile was calculated. "Then make it public," she purred, leaning closer. "Show them she's still the dreamer who doesn't belong." Her words stoked Julian's resolve, his need to reassert dominance over the woman who dared to outshine him. He'd humiliate her, not with shouts, but with the sharp, polished cruelty he'd mastered. Blackwood was his stage, and Zola would be his foil, until she wasn't. Zola stood, her office a crucible of purpose. She opened a sketch of her gown on her tablet, its gold threads glinting like embers. "This isn't about Julian," she told Kaylin, her voice steady but fierce. "It's about every woman I've lifted, every door I've opened." Kaylin nodded, his silence a vow. He'd be there, not as her savior, but as her equal, his wealth and influence amplifying her fire. The donation was their weapon, a way to rewrite Blackwood's legacy. "They'll try to smile and clap," he said, a grin tugging at his lips, "but they'll choke on it when they see what you've built." As Zola packed the invitation, her fingers steady, she felt the weight of her past lift. Blackwood wasn't her prison anymore. It was her arena. She wasn't returning to answer Julian's taunts or Blair's sneers. She was coming to burn down their illusions, to show a world that had underestimated her what power truly looked like. The fire she'd once buried was now ablaze, and Blackwood would feel its heat. She strides in like she owns Blackwood's soul. Blair's whisper, sharp as a shard of ice, cut through the hum of Blackwood's grand hall, her words dripping with venom as she leaned into Julian Croft. Zola Vance stepped through the arched doors, her royal blue gown, woven with Ghanaian gold threads, flaring like a flame in the chandelier's glow. Her sleek black hair, a defiant crown, caught every light, and her presence was a silent detonation, commanding the room without a word. The crowd of elites, tuxedos crisp, gowns shimmering, paused mid-sip, some smirking at the audacity of the woman they once overlooked, others shifting uneasily, sensing a shift in the air. Zola's eyes, twin embers of resolve, swept the hall, undaunted by the weight of their stares. Julian stood near the bar, his tailored suit a veneer of control, but his jaw tightened as whispers rippled. "Isn't that Zola Vance, the Innovate Forward woman?" Her nonprofit's name was on every philanthropist's lips, its mission to empower women of color in global leadership, a force reshaping power structures. Yet to Julian's Wall Street allies, she was still the dreamer who didn't belong. A former classmate, his tie loosened by bourbon, snorted, "Running a charity must pay peanuts, right?" Zola's lips curved, not in defense, but in quiet disdain, her silence louder than his jab. She moved forward, heels clicking like sparks on marble, each step a challenge to the world that had once tried to dim her. A board member, graying and flustered, intercepted her near a velvet-draped table. "Ms. Vance," he stammered, his bow tie askew, "your involvement with our leadership program is transformative." His deference, a nod to the $100 million donation Zola and Kaylin had engineered, hung in the air like smoke, unnoticed by most but heavy with meaning. Zola nodded, her gaze steady, knowing the board's gratitude was less about admiration and more about survival. They'd agreed to her terms, diversity-focused curricula, equity mandates, because her influence left them no choice. She wasn't here to thank them. She was here to claim what was hers. Across the hall, Julian's eyes narrowed, his knuckles whitening around a champagne flute. Blair, in a silver gown that gleamed like ambition, leaned closer, her voice a low hiss. "She's acting like she runs this place. You can't let her steal your night." Julian's smirk was a mask, but inside, Zola's poise was a blade twisting in his pride. He'd ruled Blackwood's social scene years ago, his mergers celebrated while her ideas were dismissed as noble but impractical. Now her name carried weight he couldn't ignore. Forbes covers, global summits, whispers of her impact. "She's a fraud," he muttered, but his voice wavered, betraying the doubt gnawing at him. Blair's eyes glinted, calculating. Then prove it, Julian. Put her back in her place. Zola felt their stares, twin daggers from across the room, but she didn't flinch. She'd faced this before. Classmates who'd called her too passionate, professors who'd praised her mind but questioned her fit. She'd learned to navigate their world, smiling through their microaggressions. But tonight was different. She wasn't here to play their game. She was here to rewrite the rules. A young alum, her dress vibrant with African print, approached, eyes wide with admiration. "Ms. Vance, your work inspired my nonprofit," she said, voice trembling. "You showed us we don't have to shrink." Zola's smile softened, a spark of connection. "Keep burning bright," she said, her words a quiet command. Julian watched, his composure fraying. The hall, once his kingdom, felt unsteady, its air thick with the heat of Zola's presence. He drained his flute, the champagne bitter. Blair's hand tightened on his arm, her smile a polished weapon. "She's turning heads," she whispered, her tone a mix of envy and strategy. "Do something, or she'll eclipse you." Julian nodded, his mind racing. He'd humiliate Zola, not with shouts, but with the sharp, public cruelty he'd perfected. She was a threat, not just to his ego, but to the world he'd built on charm and control. He stepped forward, ready to strike, his words already forming like embers, ready to ignite. Zola sensed the shift, the room's pulse quickening. She stood near a towering floral arrangement, its petals no match for the fire, in her stance. She wasn't here to answer Julian's taunts or Blair's schemes. She was here to claim a stage they couldn't fathom, one built on the lives she'd transformed. The board member lingered, offering pleasantries, but her focus was elsewhere, on the oak doors at the hall's end, where Kalen would soon enter. Their plan, a blaze carefully stoked, was about to erupt. She wasn't just attending a reunion, she was setting the stage for a reckoning, one that would leave Julian's world in ashes. "Still chasing your little black women's education fantasy, Zola? Innovate backward, is it?" Julian Croft's voice sliced through the Blackwood Grand Hall's glittering din, a polished blade of mockery aimed at Zola Vance. He stood, champagne flute raised, his tailored suit gleaming under the chandelier's fire, surrounded by a knot of Wall Street allies whose smirks mirrored his own. The crowd hushed, their eyes sharp with anticipation, locked on Zola, her royal blue gown a defiant flame against the hall's opulence. Blair, her silver dress catching light like a predator's glint, leaned into Julian, her whisper venomous. "Show her she's nothing here." Julian's smile was a weapon, honed by years of boardroom victories. But beneath it, a flicker of doubt betrayed him. Zola's presence, unyielding and radiant, was a spark he couldn't extinguish. Zola stood near the floral-draped stage, her sleek black hair a crown of defiance. Her gaze a molten arrow that pierced Julian's bravado. The room's pulse stuttered, split between those who laughed with Julian, old Blackwood elites, their privilege a shield, and those who shifted uneasy, sensing a storm. A young alum, her African print dress vibrant, clutched her glass, whispering to a friend, "She's Zola Vance, the Innovate Forward leader." Zola's nonprofit, a global force empowering women of color in leadership, was no mere charity. It had shifted paradigms, channeling billions into education programs that reshaped power from Lagos to London. Yet Julian's crowd saw only a dreamer out of place. Julian stepped closer, his voice louder, dripping with condescension. "This hall isn't for your little charity stunts, Zola," he said, the words echoing like a gavel. "Stick to your fundraisers. Leave power to those who know it." The insult landed like a match in dry grass, igniting snickers from his allies. Blair's laugh, sharp and crystalline, cut through, her eyes glinting with triumph. She'd urged this moment, her whispers in Julian's ear a catalyst. Make her small again. To them, Zola's work, her mission to lift women like her, was a quaint hobby, irrelevant in their world of mergers and money. The crowd leaned in, some relishing the spectacle, others, younger, bolder, frowning, their faith in Zola's vision a quiet rebellion. Zola's smile didn't waver, but it sharpened, a blade of her own. She stood taller, her gown catching the light like a beacon, her silence a firestorm held in check. Every eye felt the weight of her presence, a woman who'd once dimmed herself for Julian's approval, now blazing with purpose. Years ago, his critiques had stung. "Your ideas are too loud, Zola," he'd murmured, dismissing her passion for equity as naive. She'd folded then, softening her voice, her dreams to fit his world. Now she was done bending. "You're wrong, Julian," she said, her voice low but lethal, cutting through the laughter like a spark through smoke. The room gasped, the air electric with her defiance. Julian's smirk faltered, his flute trembling in his hand. He'd expected her to shrink, to flee, as she had in their marriage's quiet battles. But Zola's eyes held no trace of that woman. They burned, unapologetic, as if she saw through his polished cruelty to the insecurity beneath. The Forbes cover, her name on global lips, her nonprofit's billions, they haunted him, a truth he couldn't outrun. He pressed on, voice rising. "You think your little programs matter? This is Blackwood, real power, not your fantasies." His allies chuckled, but the sound was thinner now, their confidence fraying as Zola stood unmoved. A board member, hovering nearby, adjusted his tie, sweat beading on his brow. He knew the truth. Zola's influence had forced Blackwood's hand, her $100 million donation a sword held over their legacy, demanding diversity and equity. His nervous glance flickered to the oak doors at the hall's end, as if sensing the storm about to break. The young alum stepped closer to Zola, her voice soft but firm. "Your work changed my life, Ms. Vance." Others nodded, a ripple of support that Julian didn't see. His focus locked on Zola, desperate to reclaim control. Blair's hand tightened on Julian's arm, her smile a mask of calculation. "Finish it," she hissed, sensing the crowd shift. Julian's eyes narrowed, his pride a fragile ember he couldn't let die. He opened his mouth, another barb ready, but Zola's gaze held him, a fire that burned hotter than his scorn. She didn't need to speak again. Her presence was a verdict, a promise that his world was about to crumble. The hall's air thickened, every breath heavy with anticipation. Somewhere beyond the crowd, the oak doors quivered, a low groan signaling Kalen Shaw's approach. Zola's lips twitched, a spark of knowing. Julian's blade had struck, but hers was sharper, and the inferno was coming. "Your leadership program's reshaping the world, Zola." Kalen Shaw's voice thundered as the oak doors of Blackwood's Grand Hall crashed open, his navy suit cutting through the chandelier's glow like a blade of midnight. Zola Vance stood unshaken, her royal blue gown a blazing ember in the room's stunned silence, her sleek black hair a defiant crown. A massive screen behind the stage flared to life, its bold white text searing the crowd. "Innovate forward, 1.5 and 1 women empowered, 3B education impact." The elites, tuxedos stiff, gowns shimmering, gaped, their champagne flutes frozen midair. Some, the younger alums, erupted in applause. Others, Julian Croft's Wall Street cronies, exchanged uneasy glances, their smirks from moments ago dissolving like ash. Julian stood rooted, his face paling, the flute in his hand trembling as Kalen's presence, a billionaire titan whose wealth dwarfed their fortunes, shifted the room's gravity. Zola's eyes, twin flames of triumph, met Kalen's, a silent vow passing between them. He strode toward her, his steps deliberate, each one a spark igniting the hall's tension. "Your work's been endorsed by the United Nations," he said, loud enough for all to hear, his voice a low, resonant fire. "You're not just leading, Zola, you're rewriting history." The words landed like a torch in dry grass, burning away Julian's venomous taunt. "Innovate backward," that had echoed minutes before. Zola's smile, sharp and unyielding, was a blade of its own, slicing through the remnants of his scorn. She stepped forward, her voice clear, cutting, "My charity stunts just changed the game, Julian." The crowd gasped, a wave of shock rippling through silk and satin, her words a direct answer to his insult. Julian's jaw clenched, his eyes darting as if seeking an escape. Blair, her silver gown now a dull sheen, gripped his arm, her face a mask of forced composure. She'd urged him to crush Zola, whispering venom to stoke his pride. But now the room tilted against them. A young alum, her African print dress vibrant, shouted, Her programs transformed my company. Others joined, their cheers a rising flame, while Julian's allies shifted, their laughter replaced by murmurs of doubt. The board member who'd fawned over Zola earlier now stood at the stage's edge, his tie askew, voice trembling as he seized the microphone. Blackwood is honored to announce a $100 million donation, he stammered, establishing the Zola Vance Institute for Leadership and Equity, funded by Mr. Kalen Shaw. The hall erupted, gasps, applause, and whispers colliding like sparks in a storm. The screen flashed again, detailing Innovate Forward's impact, empowering women of color in global leadership. Zola stood center stage, her presence a beacon, not a plea for approval. She'd forced Blackwood's hand, her donation tied to demands for diversity curricula, a legacy that would outlast the hall's marble columns. Kalen stood beside her, not as a savior, but an amplifier, his hand grazing hers, a quiet signal. Your fire burns brightest. The crowd's applause swelled, but it was uneven. Some clapped out of awe, others out of obligation, their world upended by a woman they'd underestimated. Julian's flute slipped, champagne splashing his cuff. His eyes, once sharp with condescension, were hollow, his empire of charm crumbling. He'd mocked Zola's mission, called it a fantasy, but now her name was carved into Blackwood's future. Blair's smile froze, her fingers digging into his arm, her own ambition tarnished by his misstep. You didn't know, she hissed, her voice barely audible, a betrayal cloaked in silk. Julian opened his mouth, a retort forming, but it died as another alum called out, Zola's work is on every global stage. The words stung, each one a reminder of his blindness. Zola didn't gloat. Her gaze swept the room, steady, searing, a fire that needed no fuel. She'd come not to fight Julian, but to claim her truth, a truth now undeniable, projected in bold letters above her. The board member, sweating, continued, The Institute will champion Ms. Vance's vision, equity, leadership, change. The younger crowd roared, their phones already capturing the moment. One alum typing furiously, Zola Vance just owned Blackwood, Black excellence. Julian's allies turned away, their whispers now of damage control, their power slipping like smoke through their fingers. Kalen's presence, a quiet titan beside Zola, was a verdict. He didn't need to speak again. His entrance, his wealth, his belief in her had shifted the hall's axis. Zola nodded to the crowd, her silence louder than their applause, her gown catching the light like a flame that refused to dim. Julian stood, a shadow in his own kingdom, watching the woman he'd scorned become its center. The oak doors behind him stood open, their groan a fading echo, but the inferno Zola and Kalen had ignited was only beginning to burn. You picked the wrong side, Blair. A donor's curt dismissal sliced through the Blackwood Grand Hall's fading applause, his eyes cold as he brushed past Blair, her silver gown now a tarnished sheen in the chandelier's flicker. Zola Vance stood center stage, her royal blue gown a smoldering ember, her sleek black hair a defiant crown against the screen, still blazing with Innovate Forward's metrics. 1.5 M women empowered, 3B education impact. The crowd's cheers lingered, but the air was thick with a new tension. Julian Croft's empire of charm was crumbling, and Blair's calculated poise was cracking beside him. Julian's face, once sharp with condescension, was a mask of ash, his champagne flute forgotten, its contents staining the marble floor. Zola's gaze, a molten blade, met his for a fleeting moment, not with triumph, but with a verdict. You're irrelevant. The hall buzzed, a hive of whispers and shifting allegiances. Julian's Wall Street allies who'd laughed at his taunt, innovate backward, moments before, now averted their eyes, their smirks replaced by nervous glances. A young alum, her African print dress vibrant, clutched her phone, her ex-post already gaining traction. Zola Vance just owned Blackwood, round black excellence. The words spread like wildfire, each retweet a spark igniting Julian's humiliation beyond the hall's gilded walls. Donors who'd once courted his deals drifted toward Zola, their handshakes eager, their voices low with awe. Ms. Vance, your institute will change everything. She nodded, her silence a fire that needed no fuel, her presence a beacon that outshone their flattery. Blair's fingers dug into Julian's arm, her smile a brittle facade. "Fix this," she hissed, her voice a desperate ember beneath her polished exterior. She'd urged him to crush Zola, whispering venom to stoke his pride, but now her own ambition was singed by his misstep. She stepped toward a cluster of donors, her laugh forced, her gown catching light like a fading star. "Julian was just joking earlier," she said, her voice too bright, too thin. The donor's reply was ice. "You picked the wrong side, Blair." Her smile faltered, her eyes darting to Zola, who stood unmoved, a pillar of fire in a room that no longer belonged to them. Blair's world, built on proximity to power, was unraveling, her elegance no match for Zola's undeniable truth. Julian's breath hitched, his jaw clenching as he watched the crowd orbit Zola. He'd mocked her as a dreamer, a fraud, but the screen above, its numbers unassailable, proved her a titan. The Zola Vance Institute for Leadership and Equity, funded by Kaylin Shaw's $100 million, wasn't just a donation. It was a monument to her vision, one he'd dismissed as charity stunts. His allies, once loyal, now whispered of his blunder. He didn't know who he was messing with. A former classmate, now a tech entrepreneur, leaned toward another. "Her programs are reshaping my boardroom." Julian's hand trembled, the weight of his mistake a flame licking at his pride. He opened his mouth, a weak defense forming, but the words died as Zola's gaze swept past him, dismissing him without effort. Kaylin stood beside Zola, his navy suit a quiet contrast to her radiance, his presence a steady inferno amplifying hers. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His entrance had shifted the hall's axis, his wealth and belief in Zola, a verdict on Julian's irrelevance. The board member, still sweating, hovered nearby, murmuring to a colleague, "Her conditions, diversity, equity, are rewriting our curriculum." Zola's influence wasn't just personal, it was systemic, a fire burning through Blackwood's outdated foundations. A young woman, inspired by Zola's work, approached, her voice trembling. "Ms. Vance, you showed me I can lead without shrinking." Zola's smile softened, a spark of connection. "Keep rising," she said, her words a quiet command that echoed louder than the hall's applause. Julian's allies drifted further, their handshakes now offered to Kaylin, their smiles forced. Blair's eyes narrowed, her composure fracturing as she realized her own status was tied to Julian's sinking ship. She tried again, approaching another donor, her voice saccharine. "We're thrilled for Blackwood's future." The donor turned away, muttering, "Align with winners next time." The rejection stung, a public wound that mirrored Julian's. He stood frozen, a shadow in a hall he once ruled, his pride reduced to cinders. Zola didn't look back. Her fire had burned brighter than his scorn, and the room knew it. The screen above flickered, its metrics a relentless reminder. Zola's work wasn't a dream, it was a revolution. The X post gained millions of views, its hashtag trending globally. Black excellence. Julian's name, once a badge of power, now trended for all the wrong reasons. Zola and Kaylin stood as one, their silhouettes a promise of what was to come. The hall's chatter faded, but the fire they'd ignited burned on, ready to consume the last of Julian's world. "I turned their stage to ashes, Kaylin." Zola Vance's voice, fierce and unbroken, cut through the hum of the car as she leaned back, her royal blue gown catching the city's neon pulse through the tinted windows. Kaylin Shaw, his navy suit still sharp as a blade, gripped her hand, his dark eyes glinting with a pride that burned hotter than the Blackwood Grand Hall's chandeliers. "You didn't just win, Zola," he said, his low rumble a spark to her fire. "You redefined their world." Their silhouettes, framed against San Francisco's starlit skyline, were a portrait of unyielding power, a testament to the inferno they'd ignited. The hall's gilded walls, Julian Croft's shattered pride, and Blair's crumbling ambition lay behind them, reduced to embers in the wake of Zola's triumph. Her phone buzzed relentlessly, the screen alight with notifications. The X post from the young alum, Zola Vance, just owned Blackwood. Black excellence had exploded, Millions of views pouring in, retweets spreading like wildfire across continents. Comments flooded, "She shut down Wall Street arrogance," and "Her institute's changing the game." The hashtag trended globally, a digital blaze that carried Zola's name from the hall to the world. She scrolled, her lips curving as she read a message from a young woman in Nairobi. "Your work gave me courage to lead." Zola's heart flared, not with pride but purpose. This wasn't about Julian's defeat, it was about the women she'd lifted, the futures she'd forged. Back in the hall, Julian stood alone, a shadow amidst the fading clatter of champagne flutes. His tailored suit, once a badge of dominance, hung heavy, stained with the champagne he'd spilled in his shock. The screen's metrics, 1.5 mm, women empowered, 3B education impact, still burned in his mind, a relentless reminder of Zola's power. His allies had scattered, their handshakes withdrawn, their whispers now of his misstep. He mocked her? She's untouchable. Blair had slipped away, her silver gown a ghost in the crowd, her final words to him a hiss. "You dragged us both down." Julian's jaw clenched, his pride a pile of ash. He'd thought Blackwood was his kingdom, but Zola had turned it into her arena, and he was the fool left standing in its ruins. Zola leaned against Kaylin, the car's leather cool against her skin. "This wasn't revenge," she said, her voice steady but alive with fire. "It was for every woman told to shrink." Kaylin's nod was silent, his hand a steady anchor. He'd never sought the spotlight, his billionaire status a tool, not a crown. At Blackwood, his entrance had been a spark, his $100 million donation a flame. But it was Zola's vision, the Zola Vance Institute for Leadership and Equity, that burned brightest. "They'll talk about tonight for years," he said, a grin tugging at his lips. "But you're just getting started." The city's lights streaked past, each one a star in Zola's constellation. She thought of the young alum, her African print dress vibrant, her words a vow, "You showed me I can lead." Zola's work wasn't just numbers on a screen. It was lives transformed, from boardrooms in Accra to classrooms in Chicago. The ex-post's reach grew, comments pouring in from women she'd never met. "I'm applying for your program. You're my hero." Each message was a spark, kindling a movement that Julian's world could never contain. Zola's fingers tightened around Kaylin's, her resolve a blaze that no one could extinguish. In Manhattan, Julian sat in his penthouse, the city's glow mocking him through floor-to-ceiling windows. His phone was silent, his inbox empty of the usual deal offers. The ex-post had branded him a fool, his name trending alongside Zola's, but for all the wrong reasons. Donors he'd courted now praised her institute, their emails citing equity and envision, words he'd once scoffed at. Blair's absence stung, her social media dark, her ambitions severed by his failure. He poured a whiskey, its burn no match for the fire Zola had unleashed. He'd thought he could bury her, but she'd buried him, her legacy a flame that would outlast his empire. Zola closed her eyes, the car's hum a rhythm to her thoughts. She saw the women her programs had lifted, mothers, students, leaders, each one a spark in her revolution. The Blackwood Hall, with its chandeliers and elites, was a fading memory, its power dwarfed by the world she was building. "They thought they could dim me," she murmured, her voice a quiet inferno. Kaylin's hand squeezed hers, his silence a promise. "You're unstoppable." The ex-post's glow lit her screen, its reach a testament to her fire. She wasn't just leaving Blackwood behind. She was lighting a path forward, one that would burn brighter than any hall could contain. "Leadership means lifting all, and I'm here to ensure it." Zola Vance's voice rang clear across the Zola Vance Institute for Leadership and Equity, its sleek halls alive with the hum of ambition. The Blackwood campus, once a gilded cage of exclusion, now pulsed with purpose, its walls lined with screens flashing Innovate Forward's metrics, 1.5 M women empowered, 3B education impact. Her royal blue dress, a nod to the gown that had blazed at the reunion, shimmered under the Institute's skylights, her sleek black hair a crown of unwavering resolve. The audience, global leaders, students, and educators, hung on her words, their applause a rising flame. Zola stood not as a guest in their world, but as its architect, her vision of equity and leadership etched into every corner of this new legacy. The Institute's opening marked a triumph far beyond the Blackwood Grand Hall's fleeting drama. That night when Julian Croft's scorn had met Kaylin Shaw's thunderous entrance, it had been a spark. This was the inferno. Zola's speech wove a vision of a world where women of color led without apology, their voices amplified by programs she'd built from the ashes of doubt. A young woman, her braids vibrant against her blazer, approached after the speech, eyes gleaming with fire. "Ms. Vance, you showed me I don't have to shrink," she said, her voice trembling but fierce. "I'm leading a startup now because of your programs." Zola's smile, warm yet unyielding, was a spark passed forward. "Keep burning bright," she said, her words a vow that echoed through the hall. Kalen stood at the crowd's edge, his navy suit a quiet contrast to the room's energy, his pride a steady ember. He'd never sought the spotlight, his billionaire status a tool to amplify Zola's fire, not overshadow it. Their partnership, forged in shared purpose, had turned Blackwood's elitism into a platform for change. The Institute's curriculum, shaped by Innovate Forward's equity mandates, was training a new generation, women from Chicago to Accra, their leadership redefining boardrooms and governments. Kalen's gaze met Zola's, a silent promise. "Your light is unstoppable." She nodded, her heart a furnace of purpose, knowing this was only the beginning. Across the world, the X post from that reunion night still burned, its hashtag, Chakwan, Black Excellence, alive with millions of voices. Messages poured in, a teacher in Lagos inspired to start a leadership program, a student in Harlem applying to the Institute, a CEO in London citing Zola's work in her keynote. Each was a spark, kindling a movement that Julian's world could never contain. Zola scrolled through her phone backstage, her lips curving as she read a comment. Zola Vance didn't just win, she changed the game. The reunion's echoes had faded, but its fire had spread, a global blaze no one could extinguish. In Manhattan, Julian sat in his dim penthouse, the city's skyline a cold mockery through his windows. His phone was silent, his once buzzing network reduced to whispers of his blunder. The X post had branded him a relic, his name a cautionary tale beside Zola's rising star. Donors who'd once flocked to him now funded her institute, their emails praising equity and vision, words he'd mocked as naive. Blair was gone, her social media silent, her ambition severed by his failure. He poured a whiskey, its burn hollow compared to the inferno Zola had unleashed. He'd thought he could bury her, but she'd built a legacy that buried him, its flames outlasting his fated empire. Zola walked the Institute's halls, her heels clicking like sparks on marble. Portraits of women she'd mentored lined the walls. Leaders, educators, changemakers, each a testament to her revolution. She paused at a screen displaying a new metric, 2M Women Empowered. Her work wasn't numbers, it was lives, stories, futures. The young woman's words echoed in her mind. I don't have to shrink. Zola had once folded herself to fit Julian's world, her dreams dimmed by his scorn. Now she stood unbowed, her fire a beacon for those who'd been told to fade. The audience lingered, their chatter a hum of possibility. A professor approached, her voice reverent. Your institute is reshaping how we teach leadership. Zola nodded, her gaze steady. It's not about leading alone, she said. It's about lifting others. Her words, simple yet searing, carried the weight of her journey, from Blackwood's sneers to this moment, where her name was a movement. The X-Post's glow still lit her phone, its reach a reminder. Her fire had sparked a global blaze. Kalen joined her, his hand grazing hers, a quiet anchor. You've built something eternal, he said, his voice low but fierce. Zola's eyes burned with purpose, not pride. She wasn't here to bask, she was here to forge. The Institute was her legacy, but its true power lay in the women it would lift, the worlds it would reshape. As she stepped into the hall's light, her silhouette was aflame, unquenchable, undeniable, a fire that would burn for generations. Thank you for walking with Zola Vance through her blazing triumph, from Julian's scorn to a legacy that reshapes the world. Her fire sparks a question. Have you ever risen above doubt to claim your space? Share your thoughts below. Your voice matters. We're grateful for your journey with us and look forward to sharing more stories that inspire. Until next time, keep burning bright. You're nothing but a leech, Nia. Owen Brantley's voice sliced through the cramped office of Nia Okoro's flower shop in Miami, his eyes blazing with contempt. He loomed over her, suit crisp, Rolex glinting, as Nia's fingers tightened around a bouquet of roses, thorns pricking her skin. Blood beaded, but her face stayed stone cold. Owen sneered. I took your pathetic savings, 50 grand, and turned it into millions. You're stuck arranging weeds. His words landed like fists, each one aimed to crush her. Nia's jaw clenched, teeth grinding, as he waved a gold-embossed wedding invitation. Come watch me marry Elise Davenport. See what success looks like. The jab was deliberate, rooted in his disdain for her small-time dreams. He drained their joint account, money from her grandmother's estate, to fund his real estate empire, then dumped her, claiming she held him back. Now he flaunted his engagement to an heiress, twisting the knife in public. A local magazine quoted him, Nia lacked ambition, I needed a real partner. Customers in the shop froze, eyes darting as Nia's chest heaved, her breath sharp. Owen's assistant smirked, tossing the invitation onto the counter like trash. Show up or don't, you're irrelevant. Nia's fingers crushed a rose stem, petals scattering like her shattered pride. Owen turned, his laughter echoing as he strode out, leaving the air heavy with betrayal. Nia's eyes burned, not with tears, but with a fire that promised retribution. The invitation lay there, a challenge she wouldn't ignore. Nia Okoro stood frozen in her flower shop, the gold-embossed wedding invitation burning in her grip. Petals littered the floor, remnants of the rose she'd crushed under Owen's taunts. Her chest tightened, each breath a blade, but her eyes blazed with defiance. She wouldn't crumble. Not here, not now. You'll see me rise, she hissed, her voice low, a vow carved in steel. Customers lingered, their whispers a hum of pity, but Nia's spine straightened, her jaw locked. She slammed the invitation onto the counter, its edges slicing her fingertip. Blood smeared the paper, a silent oath. She grabbed her phone, fingers trembling, and dialed her best friend Lena. He wants me at his wedding to gloat, Nia spat, her words sharp as thorns. I'm going, not to beg, but to show him who I am. Lena's voice crackled through, urging caution, but Nia cut her off. No, he doesn't get to bury me. Her gaze fell on a sketch of her dream gown, silver white, off-shoulder, curve-hugging, high slit, a vision of sensual elegance. She'd wear it, not for Owen, but for herself. Nia stormed to the back room, yanking open a box of fabric swatches. Her hands moved with purpose, stitching her resolve into every thought of that dress. She'd walk into that wedding, head high, a queen reclaiming her throne. The shop's bell chimed unnoticed as Nia's heart pounded, her pulse a war drum. Owen's words, pathetic, irrelevant, echoed, but she crushed them with a single thought. I'm enough. Her lips curved, not a smile, but a predator's grin. She'd face him, not as the woman he discarded, but as the fire he couldn't extinguish. The invitation sat on the counter, a gauntlet she'd picked up. Owen Brantley's polished loafers clicked against the marble floor of his Miami penthouse office, his smirk fading as he stared at his laptop screen. An email from a former colleague, tagged urgent, burned into his eyes. Your Bayside project, Nia's idea. Check the attached proposal. His fingers froze on the mouse. The attached file, dated 3 years ago, outlined Nia Okoro's vision for the luxury condos that skyrocketed his career. Her name was scrawled in the margins, her handwriting unmistakable. Owen's throat tightened, his pulse hammering. No way, he muttered, slamming the laptop shut. But the truth clawed at him. He'd used her $50,000 savings, her grandmother's legacy, to fund that project, claiming it as his own. His chest heaved, a flicker of guilt sparking, but he crushed it, jaw clenched. He poured a whiskey, the glass trembling in his grip. Then another email pinged. It was a bank statement, flagged by an old accountant friend showing the $50,000 transfer to a charity fund run by his sister, Claudia Brantley. The memo read, discretionary. Owen's eyes narrowed. Why would Claudia need Nia's money? His fingers hovered over his phone, itching to call her. But he stopped. She's hiding something, he hissed, his voice ablaze in the silence. He tossed the phone onto the desk, its clatter echoing. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Owen paced, his polished facade cracking as Nia's words, "You'll see me rise," echoed in his skull. He scoffed, trying to bury the unease, but his hands shook. The wedding was days away, and Nia's shadow loomed larger than he'd expected. He glanced at the bank statement again, the numbers a silent accusation. Something was off, and it wasn't just his betrayal. Claudia's name glared from the screen, a mystery he couldn't ignore. "You can't hide from me, Nia." Owen Brantley's voice roared as he shoved open the glass door of Nia Okoro's flower shop in Miami. His face twisted with a mix of guilt and fury. His tie hung loose, sweat beading on his brow, as customers flinched, their hands clutching bouquets. Nia stood behind the counter, pruning shears in hand, her jaw locked tight, eyes blazing like embers. "Get out!" she snapped, her voice a whip. But Owen charged forward, slamming his palms on the counter. "I messed up, okay? I shouldn't have taken your money." His words stumbled, half sincere, half defensive. But Nia's grip on the shears tightened, her knuckles whitening. "You stole my grandmother's legacy," she hissed, cutting him off. "You don't get to waltz in here and play sorry." Owen's eyes darted, his breath ragged. The email about Nia's Bayside project idea and the mysterious $50,000 transfer to his sister Claudia's charity fund gnawed at him. He'd spent the night digging through old files, finding Nia's handwritten notes on his biggest deal. His stomach churned, but pride choked his apology. "I'm trying to fix this," he barked, interrupting her again. Nia's lips curled, a bitter smirk. "Fix it? You humiliated me in front of Miami." A customer gasped, but Nia's focus stayed razor sharp. She tossed the shears down, the metal clanging, and leaned forward, her voice low, lethal. "You invited me to your wedding to rub it in. I'm coming, Owen. Not for you. For me." Owen flinched, his hands shaking as he backed away. A regular customer, Mrs. Torres, piped up. "Nia's flowers light up this city." "You're the fool, Mr. Big Shot," the crowd murmured, their support a blade in Owen's gut. He stormed out, his phone buzzing with a text from Claudia. "Keep her quiet." His pulse raced, suspicion flaring. Why was Claudia so nervous? He drove to her office, determined to confront her, but Nia's words, "for me," burned in his mind. He'd underestimated her, and now she was a storm he couldn't control. Nia watched him leave, her chest heaving, her fingers tracing the invitation on the counter. She grabbed her sketchbook, flipping to her gown design. Silver white, curve-hugging, high slit, a weapon of elegance. Her heart pounded, a war drum, as she dialed her tailor. "Make it unforgettable," she ordered, her voice steel. Owen's guilt was his problem. Her vengeance was hers. She'd walk into that wedding, not as his victim, but as a queen. The shop buzzed with customers, their chatter a chorus of admiration. But Nia's eyes stayed fixed on the invitation, its gold edges gleaming like a challenge. She wasn't just going to show up. She'd burn the place down with her presence. Owen, meanwhile, sped through Miami's streets, his hands gripping the wheel, Claudia's text replaying in his head. He pulled up to her charity's headquarters, his jaw clenched. "What are you hiding, Claudia?" he muttered, slamming the car door. The truth was slipping through his fingers, and Nia was no longer the woman he could dismiss. Her fire was rising, and he was starting to feel the heat. "You're stronger than his lies," Lena's voice cut through the hum of Nia Okoro's flower shop, her words a lifeline as Nia's hands wove lilies into a bouquet, her fingers trembling with rage. Owen's confrontation still burned, his half-assed apology, his smug invitation to his wedding. Nia's jaw clenched, her teeth grinding, but she forced a smile for the kids crowded around her workbench. "Like this," she said, her voice steady, guiding a girl's small hands to tuck a rose into a centerpiece. The children from a local shelter beamed, their laughter a shield against her pain. Nia's shop was a haven, its shelves bursting with vibrant blooms she'd crafted into art. She gifted these kids free lessons, pouring her heart into their joy. Her chest tightened, Owen's words, pathetic, irrelevant, clawing at her, but she shoved them down. A man entered, his tailored suit sharp, eyes warm. Vincent Hargrove, a venture capitalist, held a business card, his gaze locking on Nia's deft hands. "These are stunning," he said, nodding at a floral arch. "You're a visionary." Nia's lips twitched, a spark of pride flaring. She brushed her straight, sleek hair back, her pulse quickening. "Just doing what I love," she replied, her voice firm but soft. Vincent lingered, asking about her dreams. "A chain of shops," Nia admitted, her eyes blazing with ambition. "To share beauty with everyone." He handed her his card, his smile genuine. "Let's talk. I invest in visionaries." The kids cheered as Nia finished their bouquet, her heart pounding, a war drum of hope. She glanced at the wedding invitation on the counter, its gold edges a taunt. Owen thought he'd broken her, but Vincent saw her fire. She'd wear that silver-white gown, step out of a Maybach convertible, and make him choke on his arrogance. The kids' laughter echoed as she tucked Vincent's card into her pocket, her resolve a blade sharpened for battle. "I'm sorry, Nia, I was wrong." Owen Brantley's voice cracked as he stood in the dimly lit Miami cafe, his hands clenched, eyes darting like a trapped animal. Nia Okoro sat across from him, her posture rigid, fingers gripping a coffee mug so tightly her knuckles paled. Her sleek, straight hair framed her face, a mask of cold resolve. Owen's apology reeked of desperation, not remorse. "You stole my money, my dreams," Nia cut in, her words slicing like a blade. "You don't get to just say sorry." Owen leaned forward, his tie askew, voice rising. "I'm trying to make this right," he snapped, cutting her off. Nia's eyes flared, her jaw locked, but she held her ground. "Right? You invited me to your wedding to gloat." Her voice was low, venomous, each syllable a dart. Owen flinched, his hands shaking, the bank statement from Claudia's charity fund burning in his pocket. He slid a folded letter across the table, his fingers trembling. "I found this," he muttered. "I didn't know." Nia's pulse hammered as she snatched the letter, her eyes scanning the faded ink. It was from Claudia Brantley, Owen's sister, dated 3 years ago, instructing him to transfer Nia's $50,000 to her charity fund to cover discrepancies. Nia's breath caught, her nails digging into her palm. "You knew," she hissed, her voice a whip. "You let her bury my future." Owen opened his mouth, but Nia slammed the letter down, the table rattling. "You want forgiveness? Prove it. Admit everything at your wedding, in front of everyone." Owen's face paled, his throat bobbing. "Nia, I can't." "Then we're done," she snapped, standing, her chair scraping the floor. The cafe's patrons stared, their whispers abuzz, but Nia's gaze was steel. She stormed out, the letter clutched in her hand, her heart pounding like a war drum. Owen slumped, his fingers raking through his hair, Claudia's name a curse on his lips. Why had she needed Nia's money? His phone buzzed. Another text from Claudia. "Don't let her ruin us." His stomach twisted, suspicion clawing deeper. Nia, outside, leaned against the cafe wall, her chest heaving, the letter a ticking bomb. She dialed Vincent Hargrove, her voice steady despite the fire in her veins. "I found something," she said, her words sharp. "Claudia's involved." Vincent's voice was calm, a lifeline. "Bring it to me. We'll dig deeper." Nia's lips curved, not a smile, but a predator's grin. She slipped the letter into her purse, her mind racing. Owen thought he could control her with a weak apology, but he'd unleashed a storm. She'd walk into that wedding, her silver-white gown blazing, stepping from a Maybach convertible with Vincent at her side. The letter was her weapon, Claudia its target. Nia's heels clicked on the pavement, each step a vow to burn Owen's world to ash. Back in the cafe, Owen stared at the empty chair, his hands shaking, the weight of Nia's demand crushing him. He'd underestimated her, and now Claudia's secrets were pulling him under. The wedding loomed, a stage for Nia's reckoning, and he was no longer the director. Keep that woman away, or we're done. Claudia Brantley's voice hissed like a snake, her manicured nails digging into the armrest of her leather chair in the sleek Miami office of her charity foundation. Her eyes, cold and calculating, locked on her brother Owen, whose face paled, sweat beading on his brow. The letter Nia Okoro found, Claudia's order to transfer Nia's $50,000 to cover discrepancies, burned in his pocket, a ticking bomb. Owen's hands shook, his voice low. She's coming to the wedding, Claudia. She knows. Claudia's lips curled into a sneer, her heels clicking as she rose, towering over him. Knows what? Your pathetic ex can't touch me. Her words dripped venom, slicing through Owen's crumbling confidence. He opened his mouth, but she cut him off, her finger jabbing the air. You let her get that letter. You're weak. Owen's jaw clenched, his fists balling. I didn't know you used her money to hide your mess, he snapped. But Claudia's laugh was sharp, a blade. You think I built this empire by playing fair? She leaned in, her breath hot, eyes glinting with malice. Nia's a nobody. I'll bury her if she talks. Owen's stomach twisted, his pulse hammering as Claudia's true colors bled through. She wasn't just covering discrepancies. She was laundering money through her charity, using Nia's savings as a drop in a much larger scheme. Her hostility toward Nia wasn't personal, it was survival. Claudia grabbed her phone, barking orders to an assistant. Watch Nia Okoro. She steps out of line. Make it hurt. Owen flinched, his throat tight. You can't. I can, Claudia spat, cutting him off again. And you'll keep quiet, or you're next. She turned, her silhouette a shadow of power, leaving Owen frozen, his hands trembling. He'd thought Nia was the threat, but Claudia's claws were sharper. The letter in his pocket felt heavier, a key to a truth he couldn't unsee. Claudia's assistant slipped out, already tailing Nia's flower shop, while Owen stood, his breath ragged, realizing he'd unleashed a monster. Nia's vow, prove it, echoed in his skull, a warning he'd ignored. Now Claudia's scheme loomed larger than his betrayal, and Nia was walking into a viper's nest. The wedding was 2 days away, and Claudia's threat hung like a guillotine. Owen gripped the letter, his knuckles white, knowing he'd have to choose a side soon. You're playing with fire, Nia. Vincent Hargrove's voice sliced through the hum of his Miami penthouse office, his eyes sharp as he leaned over a stack of documents. Nia Okoro's stolen letter from Claudia Brantley glaring under the desk lamp. Nia's fingers gripped the edge of his desk, her knuckles whitening, her sleek, straight hair falling like a curtain as she leaned in, her jaw locked. I'm done hiding, she snapped, her voice a blade cutting through the tension. Claudia's letter, ordering Owen to funnel Nia's $50,000 into her charity to cover discrepancies, was a grenade, and Nia was ready to pull the pin. Her pulse hammered, Owen's betrayal and Claudia's venom fueling her fire. Vincent's hands shot up, silencing her. We need proof, not just anger. His tone was steel, but his eyes held a flicker of admiration. Nia's chest heaved, her nails digging into the wood. She'd trusted Vincent since he saw her potential at the flower shop, and now he was her anchor in this storm. That letter's a start, she said, her words sharp. Claudia's dirty, and Owen's her puppet. Vincent nodded, his fingers flying across his laptop, pulling up encrypted files from a contact, a former accountant at Claudia's charity. Nia paced, her heels clicking, her mind racing. The accountant, Maya, met them in a shadowed diner, her hands trembling as she slid a USB drive across the table. Claudia's been laundering money, Maya whispered, her voice barely audible. Your $50,000 was just a drop. She's hiding millions through fake donations. Nia's breath caught, her fists clenching. Millions, she hissed, her eyes blazing. Maya nodded, glancing over her shoulder. She used your money to plug a hole in a real estate deal tied to Owen's projects. Nia's stomach twisted, her teeth grinding. Owen hadn't just stolen her savings. He'd sold her out to Claudia's empire of lies. Vincent's hand grazed Nia's arm, steadying her. We need more, he said, his voice low, urgent. They dove into the USB's files, spreadsheets flashing on Vincent's screen, revealing a web of transfers linking Claudia's charity to offshore accounts. Nia's heart pounded, a war drum as she spotted her $50,000 buried in a transaction labeled consulting fee. Her fingers shook, pointing at the screen. "That's mine," she spat, her voice venomous. Vincent's eyes narrowed, his jaw tight. "We've got her," he said, but his tone held a warning. "Claudia's dangerous. She's watching you." Nia's pulse spiked, her mind flashing to a black SUV tailing her shop the night before. She shoved the fear down, her lips curling into a predator's grin. "Let her watch. I'm coming for her." They met Maya again, this time at a safe house, where she handed over a ledger. Hard evidence of Claudia's fraud, with Nia's money as the cornerstone. Nia's hands trembled as she flipped through it, her breath ragged. Each page was a nail in Claudia's coffin, but also a risk. Maya's voice shook. "If Claudia finds out, I'm done." Nia gripped her hand, her eyes fierce. "You're not alone," she said, her voice steel. Vincent arranged for Maya's protection, his resources a shield, but Nia's resolve was the true weapon. She slipped the ledger into her bag, her fingers brushing the wedding invitation. Owen's public apology was her demand, but Claudia's downfall was her mission. The wedding was tomorrow and Nia's plan crystallized. She'd walk in, silver-white gown blazing, stepping from a Maybach convertible with Vincent at her side, the ledger her sword. Claudia's text to Owen, "Keep her quiet," echoed in Nia's mind, a taunt she'd turn into ruin. Vincent watched her, his eyes gleaming with pride. "You're unstoppable," he said, his voice a spark. Nia's chest swelled, her fire unyielding. She wasn't just fighting for her money, she was dismantling an empire. The ledger burned in her bag, a ticking bomb ready to detonate at the wedding. "You sold my life for your lies." Nia Okoro's voice exploded in Vincent Hargrove's Miami office, her hands slamming the ledger onto his desk, pages fluttering like a storm. Her sleek, straight hair whipped as she leaned forward, eyes blazing, her pulse a war drum. The ledger, stained with ink and betrayal, laid bare Claudia Brantley's scheme. Nia's $50,000, stolen by Owen, wasn't just a cover for discrepancies. It was the cornerstone of a money-laundering empire. Vincent's jaw tightened, his fingers gripping the ledger, his eyes scanning rows of illicit transfers. "This is bigger than we thought," he hissed, his voice sharp as a blade. Nia's chest heaved, her nails digging into her palms, blood beating. "Claudia used my money to wash millions," she spat, her words venom. The ledger showed her $50,000 funneled into fake donations, masking funds for offshore accounts tied to Owen's real estate deals. But the truth cut deeper. Owen wasn't just a thief. He was Claudia's pawn, knowingly signing off on transfers to protect her empire. Nia's breath caught, her teeth grinding as she flipped to a page with Owen's signature, dated the day he left her. "He knew," she whispered, her voice a raw wound. Vincent's hand shot out, steadying her arm. "He betrayed you twice," he said, his tone steel, eyes fierce with resolve. They cross-referenced the ledger with Maya's USB files, uncovering a network of shell companies Claudia used to siphon millions, threatening Miami's charity community. Nia's heart pounded, her fingers trembling as she traced a line linking her money to a deal that built Owen's Bayside condos. Her idea, her legacy, stolen. "They built their empire on my back," she snarled, her voice a whip. Vincent's eyes met hers, his nod firm. "We'll end it." Nia's lips curled, a predator's grin, as she clutched the ledger, its weight a promise of ruin. The wedding was hours away, and this truth would be her weapon. She'd step from that Maybach convertible, silver-white gown blazing, and tear Claudia's world apart. Vincent dialed his lawyer, his voice urgent. "Get this to the press," he ordered, his hand brushing Nia's, a spark of trust. Nia's resolve burned hotter, her eyes locked on the ledger. Claudia thought she was untouchable. Owen thought he'd buried her. They were wrong. The truth was a blade, and Nia was ready to wield it. "You're a nobody who'll stay a nobody." Claudia Brantley's voice lashed out, her eyes glinting like knives as she cornered Nia Okoro in a shadowed hallway just off the glittering Miami wedding hall. Nia's silver-white gown shimmered, hugging her curves, its off-shoulder design and high slits screaming defiance, but her pulse hammered as Claudia's manicured nails jabbed the air. Nia's hand clutched the ledger, her knuckles whitening, the evidence of Claudia's money laundering empire burning against her skin. She'd stepped from the Maybach convertible moments ago, arm in arm with Vincent Hargrove, her arrival silencing the crowd, Owen's stunned gaze locking on her. Now Claudia's sneer twisted, her voice venom. "You think you can ruin me?" She lunged, snatching at the ledger, but Nia jerked back, her heels scraping the floor, her jaw clenched tight. "You used my money to build your lies," Nia spat, her words sharp as thorns. Claudia's laugh was cold, cutting Nia off. "You're nothing but a flower girl." Her hand shot out, grabbing Nia's wrist, nails digging in, drawing blood. Nia's breath caught, pain searing, but her eyes blazed, unyielding. "Let go," she hissed, her voice a whip. But Claudia tightened her grip, her face inches away. "Give me that ledger, or you'll regret it." A shadow moved, a hired thug, his bulk looming, sent by Claudia to steal the evidence. Nia's heart pounded, a war drum, as the thug's hand grazed her bag. She yanked free, her elbow slamming into Claudia's chest, sending her stumbling. "You're done," Nia snarled, her voice steel, but the thug lunged, pinning her against the wall, his breath hot. Nia's fingers clawed at her bag, protecting the ledger, her teeth grinding as she kicked, her heel connecting with his shin. He grunted, loosening his grip, but Claudia's voice sliced through. "Take it," she barked, her eyes wild. Vincent's shout echoed from the hall. "Nia!" His footsteps thundering closer. Nia's chest heaved, her resolve ablade. She twisted, shoving the thug back, her nails raking his arm. The ledger stayed in her grip, her lifeline to justice. Claudia's face paled, her control slipping as Vincent burst in, his fist clenched, eyes fierce. "Back off!" he roared, pulling Nia behind him. The thug hesitated, Claudia's orders faltering. Nia's breath was ragged, her wrist bleeding, but her eyes burned with fire. She'd faced Claudia's claws and survived. The wedding hall's music pulsed beyond the door, the crowd oblivious. But Nia's fight was far from over. She clutched the ledger, her lips curling into a predator's grin. Claudia thought she'd break her, but Nia was forged in steel, ready to wield the truth like a sword. "You can't stop me now!" Nia Okoro's voice cut like a blade, her breath ragged as she stumbled into Vincent Hargrove's arms, the ledger still clutched tight against her silver-white gown, its high slit torn from the scuffle with Claudia's thug. Blood trickled from her wrist. Claudia's nail marks raw, but her eyes burned with fire, unyielding. The Miami wedding hall's music pulsed beyond the shadowed hallway, guests oblivious to the chaos. Vincent's jaw clenched, his fist balled as he scanned Nia for injuries, his voice low, urgent. "We need to end this." Nia's chest heaved, her teeth grinding, but she nodded, her grip on the ledger iron. "Claudia's going down," she hissed, her words venom. Vincent pulled her to a quiet corner, his phone already buzzing with a call from Maya, their whistleblower accountant. "I found it," Maya whispered, her voice shaking. "A recording. Claudia admitting everything." Nia's pulse hammered, a war drum, as Vincent patched Maya through on speaker. The recording crackled, Claudia's voice cold, smug. "Owen's ex was easy to fleece. Her 50 grand covered our tracks perfectly." Nia's nails dug into her palm, blood beating anew, her heart pounding with rage. "She used me," Nia snarled, her voice a whip. Vincent's eyes met hers, fierce with resolve. "We've got her now." They raced to Vincent's laptop, parked in a private room off the hall, Nia's heels clicking, her torn gown trailing like a battle flag. Maya sent the audio file, and Vincent's tech contact decrypted a backup of Claudia's emails, revealing orders to funnel millions through fake charities, with Nia's $50,000 as the seed. Nia's hands shook, flipping through the ledger, matching entries to Claudia's emails. "This ties her to Owen's condos," she said, her voice steel, pointing at a line labeled Bayside Cover. Her idea, her money stolen to build their empire. Vincent's fingers flew across the keyboard, copying the files to a secure drive. "We'll broadcast this," he said, his tone sharp. Nia's lips curled, a predator's grin, as she slipped the drive into her purse next to the ledger. But danger lingered. Claudia's thug was still out there, his shadow lurking. Nia's breath caught as she spotted him through a window, his eyes scanning the crowd. She grabbed Vincent's arm, her nails digging in. "He's watching," she whispered, her voice taut. Vincent's hand covered hers, steadying her. "Stay close." They slipped back into the hall, blending with guests, Nia's gown shimmering despite the tear, her posture defiant. She caught Elise Davenport's eye, Owen's fiancée, her face pale with suspicion. Nia leaned in, her voice low. "Your future's built on lies," she said, slipping Elise a note with one damning email printout. Elise's hands trembled, her eyes wide, but she nodded, a spark of alliance forming. Nia's heart raced, her resolve ablade. The recording, ledger, and emails were her arsenal, undeniable proof of Claudia's crimes. Vincent's lawyer was on standby, ready to leak to the press. Nia's fingers brushed the drive in her purse, her pulse a war cry. Claudia thought she'd silenced her. Owen thought he'd buried her. They were wrong. The wedding's climax loomed, and Nia was ready to step onto the stage, her truth a fire that would burn their world to ash. "Your empire's built on my blood." Nia Okoro's voice thundered through the Miami wedding hall, her silver-white gown blazing under the chandeliers, its high slit and off-shoulder design screaming defiance. She stood at the center of the stage, ledger in one hand, USB drive in the other, her sleek hair a dark cascade, eyes burning like coals. The crowd froze, glasses clinking silent, as Owen Brantley's face drained of color, his bride Elise Davenport clutching her bouquet, trembling. Claudia Brantley lunged forward, her heels screeching, voice shrill. "Lies, she's nothing." But Nia's hand shot up, silencing her, her jaw locked tight. "You stole my 50 grand, Nia spat, her words slicing like knives. "You laundered millions through your fake charity." She slammed the ledger onto the podium, pages fluttering, and Vincent Hargrove, at her side, plugged the USB into a projector. Claudia's recorded voice blared. Owen's ex was easy to fleece. Gasps erupted, cameras flashing, as Nia's nails dug into her palm, blood beating, her pulse a war drum. "You used my money, my ideas, to build Owen's condos," she snarled, pointing at Owen, whose knees buckled. Elise's eyes widened, her voice cracking. "Is this true?" Owen stammered. "Nia, But Nia cut him off, her voice a whip. "You signed the transfers. You sold me out." The screen flashed emails, Claudia's orders to hide millions, Nia's $50,000 the seat of their fraud. Claudia's face twisted, her scream piercing. "Stop her!" But Vincent's arms shielded Nia, his eyes fierce. "It's over," he said, his voice steel. Reporters surged forward, phones recording, as guests whispered, their pity for Nia turning to awe. Elise ripped off her ring, hurling it at Owen. "You're a liar," she cried, tears streaming. Nia's chest heaved, her lips curling into a predator's grin. She'd stepped from that Maybach convertible, Vincent at her side, and torn their world apart. Claudia's empire crumbled, Owen's facade shattered, and Nia stood tall, her truth a blade that cut through their lies. The crowd roared, their applause a tidal wave, as Nia's heart pounded, her victory sealed. "You reaped what you sowed," Nia Okoro's voice rang out, sharp as a blade, as she stood outside the Miami courthouse, her sleek hair catching the flash of reporters' cameras. Claudia Brantley, hands cuffed, face twisted in fury, was led away by police, her charity empire in ruins after Nia's wedding expose. Nia's chest heaved, her jaw locked. The ledger and USB drive, proof of Claudia's money laundering, now in the hands of prosecutors. Owen Brantley, disgraced, shuffled behind, his suit rumpled, eyes hollow. "Nia, I'm sorry," he stammered, his voice weak, but Nia's hand shot up, cutting him off. "Save it," she snapped, her words venom. Her $50,000 stolen for their lies was ordered repaid, plus damages, by a judge who praised Nia's courage. Claudia's sneer faltered as cameras swarmed, her crime splashed across headlines. Miami charity fraud exposed. Owen's real estate deals collapsed. His Bayside condos, built on Nia's idea, ceased for investigation. Elise Davenport, now free of Owen, stood nearby, her nod to Nia a silent alliance. Nia's pulse hammered, her lips curling into a fierce grin. She'd torn their world apart, her truth a fire that burned through their deceit. Reporters surged, shouting questions, but Nia's eyes stayed fixed, unyielding. Justice is mine, she said, her voice steel as she turned away, her heels clicking. Claudia's empire was dust, Owen's arrogance ash, and every knot of their scheme unraveled. Nia's heart pounded, not with vengeance, but victory. The courthouse steps gleamed behind her, a stage for her triumph, and the world watched, awestruck. You can't erase what you stole, but I'm building something bigger. Nia Okoro's voice roared through the crowded Miami street, her hands gripping a ribbon, scissors poised to cut, as she stood before her new flower shop flagship, its glass doors gleaming with promise. Her sleek, straight hair framed her face, eyes blazing with triumph, her pulse a steady drum of hope. The crowd, locals, reporters, kids from her free flower arranging classes, cheered, their applause a tidal wave. Claudia Brantley's arrest and Owen Brantley's downfall, exposed by Nia's courage at the wedding, had returned her stolen $50,000 plus damages, but Nia wasn't stopping there. Her jaw clenched, her fingers steady. She snipped the ribbon, the crowd erupting as the doors swung open. Elise Davenport, Owen's ex-fiancée, stepped forward, her eyes bright, voice firm. "You deserve this," she said, handing Nia a contract. "I'm investing in your chain." Nia's chest swelled, her lips curling into a fierce grin. Elise, freed from Owen's lies, had redirected her family's wealth to fund Nia's dream, a chain of flower shops across Miami, each a beacon of beauty and community. Vincent Hargrove, at Nia's side, his hand brushing hers, added, "And I'm backing you too." His voice was steel, his eyes gleaming with pride. Nia's heart pounded, her nails digging into her palm, not from pain but purpose. She'd turned her betrayal into a legacy. The shop buzzed, filled with vibrant blooms Nia designed herself, her artistry drawing gasps. She announced a charity fund, seeded with her damages, to teach kids from Miami's poorest neighborhoods flower arranging, giving them skills and hope. "This is for them," Nia declared, her voice a whip, as kids from her classes beamed, clutching bouquets. Reporters scribbled, cameras flashing, as Nia's story, once a tale of betrayal, became Miami's anthem of resilience. Elise grabbed Nia's hand, her grip tight. "You changed me," she said, her voice raw. "I trusted a liar, but you showed me truth." Nia's eyes softened, a spark of alliance flaring. Vincent's lawyer nearby confirmed the fund's launch, ensuring Claudia's victims, including Maya, got restitution. Nia's breath caught, her pulse racing as she handed a rose to a young girl, whose smile mirrored her own. "You'll shine," Nia whispered, her voice steel and silk. The crowd roared again, their voices a chorus of hope, as Nia stood tall, her shop a monument to her fight. Owen's theft, Claudia's empire, both ashes now, couldn't dim her fire. She'd built this with her hands, her heart, and Vincent and Elise's belief in her. Her fingers brushed the scissors, still warm, a symbol of cutting through lies. The kids danced around her, their laughter a shield against the past. Nia's heart swelled, her resolve a blade forged anew. This wasn't just a shop, it was a movement, a promise to Miami that beauty could rise from pain. Vincent's hand squeezed hers, his whisper fierce. "You're unstoppable." Nia's grin widened, her eyes locked on the future, a horizon blazing with possibility. "You can't break what's already whole." Nia Okoro's voice soared, her hands gripping a bouquet of lilies as she stood in her Miami flower shop, now a flagship for her thriving chain. Her sleek, straight hair framed her radiant face, eyes blazing with triumph, her pulse a steady drum of joy. The shop buzzed with laughter, kids from her charity classes weaving flowers into crowns, their giggles a shield against her past. Vincent Hargrove, her rock, slipped a ring onto her finger, his eyes fierce with love. "Marry me, Nia," he said, his voice steel, sparking cheers from the crowd. Friends, customers, and Elise Davenport, Owen's ex-fiancée, now Nia's ally. Nia's chest swelled, her lips curling into a fierce grin, as she nodded, her heart pounding. "Yes," she whispered, her voice silk and fire. The room erupted, petals scattering like confetti, as Nia's journey from betrayal to victory crystallized. Her shops dotted Miami, each a beacon of beauty, funded by Elise's investment and Vincent's faith. Her $50,000 restitution, the seed of a new empire. Her charity fund, teaching kids to arrange flowers, had sparked hope across the city, with Maya, the whistleblower, now its manager. Nia's jaw clenched, her fingers brushing the ring. Owen's betrayal, stealing her money, her dreams, a distant scar. She'd faced him one last time, weeks after his downfall, in a quiet park. "I forgive you," she'd said, her voice sharp. "But not for you, for me." Owen's eyes were hollow, his arrogance ash, as he nodded, muttering, "I lost everything." Nia's heels had clicked away, her spine straight, leaving him to his ruins. Now Elise stepped forward, her hand gripping Nia's. "You rebuilt me too," she said, her voice raw, eyes shining. Their friendship, forged in shared truth, was a bridge over Owen's lies. Nia handed a crown to a young girl, her smile mirroring the child's, her heart a war drum of purpose. "Keep creating," she told the kids, her words steel. The shop's shelves overflowed with her designs, each bloom a testament to her resilience. Reporters lingered, their cameras flashing, as Nia's story, once a tale of pain, became Miami's anthem. A local paper hailed her, from betrayal to bloom. Vincent's arm circled her waist, his whisper fierce. "You're my home." Nia's breath caught, her nails digging into her palm, not from pain but pride. She turned Claudia's fraud, Owen's theft, into a legacy of beauty and hope. The kids danced, their flower crowns glowing, as Nia's shop became a sanctuary, a symbol of what truth could build. She glanced at a photo on the wall, her grandmother, whose legacy Owen stole, smiling down. Nia's heart swelled, her resolve a blade forged in fire. She wasn't just whole, she was unstoppable. The crowd's cheers rose, a tidal wave, as Nia stood tall, her future blazing brighter than ever. Nia Okoro's fire burned through betrayal, her silver-white gown a beacon of triumph, her Maybach exit a slap to Owen's lies. She didn't just rise, she forged an empire from ashes, her flower shops a testament to resilience, her charity a lifeline for Miami's kids. Claudia's cuffs clinked, Owen's world crumbled, and Nia stood tall, her heart a war drum, her legacy unstoppable. Her journey from a stolen $50,000 to a chain of blooming dreams proves truth cuts deeper than deceit. What sparks did Nia's fight ignite in you? Did her defiance, her predator's grin, make your pulse race? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us where you're watching from and how her story hit you. Was it her courage, her refusal to break, that gripped you? Or the way she turned pain into power? Your voice fuels our community, so don't hold back. Share now. We're grateful for every second you spent with us, diving into this tale of grit and glory. Your support lights our fire, pushing us to bring more stories that shake your soul. Hit that subscribe button, join the fight for truth, and stay tuned for our next chapter. Nia's victory is yours too. Let's meet again soon, ready to conquer the next story. "Look, this isn't a thrift shop for people like you," sneers Thane Carver, his eyes raking over Zaria Okoye's dark skin and simple white blouse in a gleaming Silicon Valley tech store. At 30, Zaria, a brilliant founder of CodeBridge, stands frozen, her elegant, wavy hair catching the light, her resolve unshaken despite the sting of prejudice. This moment of raw injustice sparks a fire that will ignite a movement. Her elite husband's Tesla is moments away, and a hidden truth about the store's dark secrets will unravel everything. Zaria's journey from humiliation to triumph will leave you stunned, proving no one's worth is defined by appearances. If this stirs you, hit subscribe, share where you're watching from, and tell us, how powerful is this story on a scale of 1 to 10? Stay tuned for a twist that'll keep you hooked. "Look, this isn't a thrift shop for people like you," Thane Carver snaps, his voice slicing through the hum of the Silicon Valley tech store. His pale eyes rake over Zaria Okoye's dark skin, her crisp white blouse and fitted jeans cinched with a black belt. Her long, wavy hair sways, catching the glint of her small, polished earrings. But Thane's sneer only deepens. At 30, Zaria, founder of CodeBridge, stands rigid, her jaw clenched so tight her teeth ache. She's here for a high-end laptop, a tool for her pitch to secure a $2 million investment, to expand her nonprofit teaching coding to underserved teens. The store's sleek displays and humming tech can't mask the venom in Thane's tone. Zaria's fingers grip the edge of the counter, her nails biting into the glass. "I'm here for the Zenith Pro laptop," she says, voice steady, honed from years of commanding boardrooms. "Check your stock." Thane's lips curl, his white teeth flashing like a blade. "Stocks are for serious buyers. Try the budget section, aisle 5. His words drip with disdain, loud enough to draw eyes from nearby shoppers. Isolde Wren, a white woman in a tailored suit, her blonde hair swept into a chignon, lets out a sharp chuckle, clutching a sleek tablet case. "Some people don't know their place," she mutters, her voice syrupy, her eyes flicking to Zaria's jeans, as if they're a crime. Zaria's chest tightens, a familiar burn rising. She's faced this before. Investors doubting her credentials, colleagues mistaking her for an intern. But here in this temple of innovation, the insult cuts deeper. Her pulse hammers, but her face remains a mask of calm. "I can pay now," she says, sliding her platinum credit card onto the counter, its weight a silent rebuke. "Express service if you're too busy." Thane doesn't glance at the card. He leans forward, his elbows on the counter, voice dropping to a hiss. "This isn't a charity case. We prioritize scheduled clients." His eyes dart to her dark hands, then back to her face, his meaning clear. The racial undertone lands like a fist, and the air in the store shifts, shoppers pausing, phones discreetly raised. Isolde's smirk widens, her amusement a spark to the kindling of Zaria's resolve. "I asked for a product, not your judgment," Zaria says, her tone a blade, sharp and unyielding. "Why is this a problem?" Thane's laugh is a whip crack. "Problem? You're not our vibe. Try the corner store. They've got your kind of stuff." The words echo, raw and deliberate, drawing gasps from a few onlookers. Isolde claps softly, her manicured nails clicking, her approval a taunt. Zaria's blood roars, her nails digging into her palms, but she refuses to shrink. She's built Code Bridge from a laptop in a cramped apartment, fueled by her mother's sacrifices and her own fire. This is just another hurdle. "Get your manager," Zaria demands, her voice rising, clear as a bell, silencing the store's ambient hum. Elise Vorn, the manager, strides from a glass-walled office, her blazer crisp, her pale face a fortress of authority. "What's the issue?" she asks, her eyes sweeping over Zaria's outfit with a flicker of disdain. Thane jumps in, voice dripping venom. "She's demanding products we can't accommodate. We're booked for real clients." The lie is seamless, though empty display stations gleam behind him. Zaria steps closer, her earrings catching the light, her posture unyielding. "I requested a laptop. You mocked me, lied about your schedule, and told me to leave. That's the issue." Her words strip the store's gloss, exposing its rot. Elise's lips purse, her voice a hiss. "We reserve the right to refuse service. Our clients expect a certain experience." The word experience is a knife, its prejudice bare. Zaria's eyes blaze, her fingers brushing her phone in her pocket. She's fought alone for years, but this crosses a line. The store's lights seem to dim, the air thick with anticipation, as her thumb hovers over Torren's number. Zaria Okoye stands tall, her dark eyes burning through the haze of Elise Vorn's dismissal. The Silicon Valley tech store pulses with tension, its sleek displays a mocking contrast to the raw prejudice choking the air. Her long, wavy hair sways slightly, the glint of her small earrings cutting through the sterile light. Her white blouse is crisp, her jeans hugging her frame. But to Thane Carver and Elise, she's an outsider, her dark skin a silent offense. Isolde Wren's mocking clap still echoes, her tailored suit a badge of complicity. Zaria's heart pounds, a storm raging beneath her calm exterior, her teeth grinding so hard her jaw aches. She's faced boardrooms that doubted her, investors who dismissed her. But this public stripping of her worth is a blade aimed at her core. "I'm a paying customer," Zaria says, her voice a velvet knife, slicing through Elise's authority. "You've lied about your schedule and insulted me. Explain why." Her words are deliberate, each syllable a challenge, daring them to double down. Elise leans forward, her pale face tightening. "You're causing a scene," she snaps, cutting Zaria off before she can respond. Leave, or I'll call security. The threat lands like a slap, but Zaria doesn't flinch. Her fingers curl into fists, nails biting her palms, channeling fury into precision. Thane smirks, his white teeth flashing. Go on, try the dollar store. They'll take you. His voice is loud, a performance for the growing crowd. Phones raised like silent judges. Zaria's pulse roars, but she holds her ground, her posture unyielding. She's built Code Bridge from nothing, empowered thousands of teens to code their way out of poverty, and no sneering clerk will erase that. Her mother's words echo in her mind. You're not just enough, you're everything. Zaria steps closer to the counter, her earrings catching the light, her gaze pinning Elise. You'll regret judging me by my skin, she says, her voice low, a promise etched in fire. The words hang heavy, silencing the store's hum. Shoppers freeze, their whispers dying as Zaria's presence becomes a quiet storm. She turns, her movements deliberate, her jeans swishing softly as she walks toward the glass doors. The crowd parts, some eyes wide with awe, others averted in shame. Isolde's smirk falters, her manicured hands fidgeting. Zaria pauses at the exit, her hand on her phone, thumb brushing Torin's number. She doesn't need saving, but she needs justice. Her lips twitch, a spark of defiance breaking through. This isn't over, she says, her voice barely above a whisper, yet it carries like thunder. The doors loom before her, the San Francisco skyline glittering beyond, a canvas for the reckoning she's about to unleash. The glass doors of the Silicon Valley tech store swing shut behind Zaria Okoye, her parting words. This isn't over, still ringing in the air like a struck bell. The store's sleek interior feels hollow, its polished displays dim under the weight of her exit. Thane Carver's smirk fades, his pale hands fidgeting with a laptop box, his confidence cracking like thin ice. Elise Vorn, the manager, stands frozen behind the counter, her blazer no longer a shield, her pale face tightening as the crowd's whispers grow louder. Shoppers clutch their phones, some typing furiously, others replaying videos of Zaria's stand. The hashtag #TechForAll flickers across screens, a spark threatening to blaze. Elise's pulse quickens, her fingers twitching toward the iPad that holds the store's schedule. Empty, a silent rebuke to her lies. She taps the screen, pulling up Zaria's transaction attempt. The platinum credit card details flash. Zaria Okoye, Codebridge Inc. Elise's breath catches, her eyes narrowing. She's not just some walk-in, she mutters, her voice barely audible. Thane leans over, his sneer gone, replaced by a flicker of unease. What's that? He asks, his tone sharp, but his hands tremble as he stacks product boxes. Elise scrolls further, finding Zaria's LinkedIn profile. Founder of Codebridge, speaker at the San Francisco Tech Summit, a woman who's trained thousands of teens to code. The realization hits like a punch. Zaria's not just a customer, she's a force. Thane's eyes dart to the crowd, catching a young shopper with braids uploading her video. It's going viral, she says, her voice loud enough to sting. Thane's jaw clenches, his fingers gripping the counter until his knuckles whiten. She was nobody, he insists, but his voice wavers, a crack in his bravado. Elise's face pales further, her mind racing. The store's pristine image, their high-end vibe, is unraveling. She snaps at Thane. You should have checked her card first. Her words are a blade slicing through the air, but it's too late. The crowd's murmurs grow, a low hum of judgment. Isolde Wren, the smug customer, shifts uncomfortably, her tablet case forgotten, her earlier laughter now a weight. Sigrid Lorne, the young employee, polishes a display nearby, her pale hands trembling. She'd watched Zaria's humiliation in silence, her brown eyes flickering with guilt. As she wipes a glass case, a small USB drive slips from her apron pocket, clattering to the floor. Its label reads Project Eclipse in sharp black ink, a cryptic relic of something she wasn't meant to see. Sigrid freezes, her breath hitching, but she scoops it up, tucking it back into her pocket. Her eyes dart to Elise, then to the door where Zaria vanished. The USB feels heavy, a secret that doesn't belong in this sterile store, hinting at something darker beneath its polished facade. Elise's phone buzzes, a notification from the store's regional director. Address this chock-a-tech-for-all mess now. Her fingers tighten around the device, her nails digging in. Thane mutters, "She's just one customer," but his voice lacks conviction, his eyes scanning the crowd for escape. The store's lights seem to flicker, the air thick with the weight of their mistake. Outside, the San Francisco skyline looms, its spires glinting under a bruised sky, waiting for Zaria's next move. "You're about to tank this store's reputation," Elise Vaughan hisses, her pale fingers slamming the iPad onto the counter, the screen still glowing with Zaria Okoye's LinkedIn profile. The Silicon Valley tech store buzzes with a brittle silence, the aftermath of Zaria's exit clinging like smoke. Elise's blazer hangs loose, her authority fraying as sure your tech for all trends on screens around her. Thane Carver, his smugness gone, paces behind the counter, his pale hands shoving product boxes aside, his jaw tight with panic. The video of Zaria's humiliation, now viral, loops on a shopper's phone nearby. Her voice, "You'll regret judging me," cutting through the store's hum. Elise's pulse hammers, her nails digging into her palms. She'd dismissed Zaria as nobody, but the platinum card and Codebridge's name prove otherwise. Her career teeters on the edge of this mistake. "We need to fix this," Elise snaps, her voice a whip, eyes darting to Thane. "Find her. Now." Thane stops pacing, his face twisting. "Me? She's your problem," he fires back, but his voice cracks, betraying his fear. Elise's glare pins him. "You started this. Move." Her tone leaves no room for argument. Thane grabs his phone, scrolling through social media, his fingers trembling as he types Zaria's name. A post from the San Francisco Tech Summit pops up. Zaria Okoye, keynote speaker, tonight. Elise's breath catches, her mind racing. The summit's a high-stakes event, packed with industry giants. If Zaria speaks there, the store's name could be dragged through the mud. Elise snatches her keys, her heels clicking as she storms toward the door. "Cover the floor," she barks at Thane, who mutters under his breath but stays put, his eyes darting to the crowd, still whispering about Marnon Tech for All. Elise's heart pounds as she pushes through the glass doors, the San Francisco air sharp against her skin. She climbs into her car, the engine roaring to life, and speeds toward the Moscone Center, where the summit's lights blaze against the dusk. Her fingers grip the steering wheel, knuckles white, as she rehearses an apology. "Ms. Okoye, we made a mistake," she whispers, testing the words. But they feel hollow, like a script she doesn't believe. Her phone buzzes, her regional director's name flashing. "Handle this or you're done," the text reads. Elise's stomach twists, her foot pressing harder on the gas. At the summit, the lobby thrums with tech moguls in tailored suits, their voices a low hum of deals and ambition. Elise weaves through the crowd, her blazer creased, her face flushed with urgency. She scans for Zaria's long, wavy hair, her small, gleaming earrings, but the sea of faces blurs. A digital billboard flashes Zaria's headshot. Zaria Okoye, Codebridge founder, empowering the next generation. Elise's throat tightens, her earlier dismissal, "Not our vibe," echoing like a curse. She spots a conference organizer, a wiry man with a badge, and grabs his arm. "Where's Zaria Okoye?" she demands, her voice sharp. He frowns, pulling away. "She's prepping backstage. No interruptions." Elise's jaw clenches, her nails biting into her palms, but she pushes forward, slipping past security toward the backstage area. Back at the store, Thane's hands shake as he refreshes X, the Gashud Kuri Tech for All hashtag climbing higher. A new post catches his eye. A blurry photo of Zaria with a man in a navy vest, stepping out of a Tesla. "Her husband's some big shot," the caption reads. Thane's breath hitches, his fingers freezing on the screen. He'd mocked her, called her nobody, but the truth is sinking in. He glances at Sigrid Lorne, the young employee polishing a display, her pale hands moving faster than usual. "You saw her card," he mutters, his voice low, accusing. Sigrid's eyes flicker with guilt, but she says nothing, her fingers brushing the USB in her apron pocket, labeled Project Eclipse. Thane doesn't notice, his mind spiraling as he imagines the fallout. Elise reaches the backstage curtain, her heart slamming against her ribs. She spots Zaria's silhouette, her white blouse swapped for a sleek blazer, her wavy hair catching the stage lights. Elise steps forward, her voice trembling. "Ms. Okoye, we need to talk." Zaria turns, her dark eyes piercing, her presence a quiet storm. The summit's hum fades, and Elise feels the weight of her own mistake pressing down, a noose tightening. "You don't get to erase me," Zaria Okoye says, her voice a low blade, cutting through the backstage hum of the San Francisco Tech Summit. Her dark eyes lock onto Elise Vorn, who stands frozen, her blazer creased, her pale face flushed with the weight of her own mistake. Zaria's long, wavy hair cascades over her sleek blazer, the small, polished earrings glinting under the stage lights. Her white blouse and jeans are gone, replaced by a tailored vest that hugs her frame, a testament to her unyielding resolve. Elise opens her mouth, but Zaria turns away, her heels clicking as she strides toward the green room, leaving the manager's plea unanswered. The summit's energy pulses around her, a sea of tech moguls and flashing screens. But Zaria's focus is iron. She's here to win a $2 million investment for CodeBridge, her nonprofit that teaches coding to underserved teens. Inside the green room, Zaria's world comes alive. She leans over a table, her fingers flying across a laptop, debugging a demo for her pitch. A group of teens from CodeBridge huddles nearby, their eyes wide with awe, their hoodies and sneakers a stark contrast to the summit's polished crowd. "Miss Zaria, you're gonna kill it," says a girl with braided hair, her voice trembling with pride. Zaria's lips curve, a spark of warmth breaking through her steel. "We're gonna kill it," she corrects, her hand squeezing the girl's shoulder. Her jaw tightens, the memory of Thane's sneer. "Not our vibe," still burning. She channels it, her fingers gripping the laptop harder, her resolve a fire that won't dim. Torrin Vale steps into the room, his navy vest sharp, his glasses dark, the expensive watch on his wrist catching the light. His white skin contrasts with Zaria's, but his green eyes burn with pride as he watches her. "You're unstoppable," he says, his voice low, a rumble of faith. He sets a coffee cup beside her, his hand brushing hers, a silent anchor. Zaria's shoulders relax, but her focus stays razor sharp. "They tried to shrink me," she says, her voice steady, her earrings glinting as she turns to him. "But I'm bigger than their store." Torrin's lips twitch, a fierce grin. "They'll learn that tonight." Zaria kneels beside a shy teen, Javier, who's clutching a tablet with lines of code. "Show me," she says, her tone warm but firm. Javier hesitates, then taps the screen, revealing an app he built, a tool for tracking scholarships. Zaria's eyes light up, her fingers tracing the code. "This is fire, Javier," she says, her voice lifting him. "You're changing lives." His shy smile breaks free, his shoulders straightening. Zaria's mother's words echo in her mind. "You're everything." She's not just fighting for herself. She's fighting for these kids, for every dream dismissed by people like Thane and Elise. Outside, the summit's crowd grows louder, the stage lights beckoning. Zaria stands, her wavy hair swaying, her blazer sharp against her frame. She adjusts her earrings, each movement deliberate, a warrior arming for battle. The teens watch her, their faces glowing with hope. She's their hero, not because of the $2 million she might win, but because she's proof they can rise. The sting of the tech store lingers, Thane's words a bruise on her soul, but Zaria turns it into fuel. Her pitch isn't just about CodeBridge, it's about every kid told they don't belong. Torrin checks his phone, his jaw tightening as he reads a new Wash Tech for All post. "It's trending higher," he says, his voice edged with urgency. Zaria nods, her fingers brushing her pocket, where she'd tucked a stray USB she'd found near the stage, labeled Project Eclipse. She doesn't know what it holds, but its weight feels like a promise, a secret waiting to crack open. The stage manager calls her name, and Zaria's eyes blaze, her heart a drumbeat. She's not just walking onto a stage, she's walking into a fight. "You don't get to walk in here and rewrite your mistake," Zaria Okoye snaps, her dark eyes slicing through Elise Vorn's trembling facade. The San Francisco Tech Summit's backstage pulses with urgency, the hum of the crowd filtering through velvet curtains. Zarya stands tall, her sleek blazer hugging her frame, her long, wavy hair catching the stage lights, her small earrings glinting like sparks. Elise, her blazer creased, her pale face flushed, clutches her phone, the Montauk Tech for All hashtag burning through her notifications. Her attempt to intercept Zarya before her keynote speech is a desperate bid to save her career. But Zarya's presence is a wall, unyielding. The memory of Thane's sneer, not our vibe, and Elise's threat to call security fuels Zarya's fire. Her jaw clenched so tight her teeth grind. Elise steps closer, her voice low, pleading. Miss Okoye, we screwed up. I'm sorry. Her words are rushed, her hands twisting together, nails biting into her skin. Zarya's lips tighten, her gaze unwavering. Sorry doesn't erase what you did, she says, her tone a blade, sharp and deliberate. You mocked me, lied about your schedule, and threatened me, all because of my skin. The accusation lands like a fist, and Elise flinches, her eyes darting to the floor. The summit's noise fades, the air thick with the weight of her guilt. Torn Veil in his navy vest, glasses dark, watch gleaming, steps beside Zarya, his hand brushing her arm, a silent anchor. His green eyes narrow at Elise. You humiliated my wife, he says, his voice low, lethal. You think words fix that? Elise's face pales further, her fingers trembling as she grips her phone. We'll make it right, she stammers. Free products, a public apology, name it. Zarya's laugh is sharp, a whip crack. You think I want your gadgets? I want change. Her words echo, drawing a stagehand's glance, his clipboard frozen mid-motion. Zarya crosses her arms, her earrings catching the light, her posture a quiet storm. Train your staff to stop judging by appearances, she says, her voice rising, clear as a bell. Rewrite your policies. Prove you're not just saving face. Elise nods, her hands shaking, but her eyes flicker with calculation, weighing the cost of compliance. We can do that, she says, her voice thin, but Zarya's gaze pins her. I'll be watching, Zarya says, her tone a promise, not a plea. Fail and Tech for All will bury you. The hashtag hangs like a guillotine, and Elise's shoulders sag, her authority crumbling. Torren's phone buzzes, a message from his team about the store's parent company. He leans close, whispering. They're linked to something called Project Eclipse. Zarya's brow furrows, her fingers brushing the USB in her pocket, the one she'd found near the stage, labeled Project Eclipse in stark ink. Her pulse quickens, the weight of it suddenly heavy, a puzzle piece that doesn't fit. She tucks it deeper, her mind racing, but the stage manager's voice cuts through. Ms. Okoye, 5 minutes. Zarya nods, her focus shifting, but the USB burns like a coal, a secret waiting to crack open. Elise seizes the moment, her voice desperate. We'll start training next week, she says, her eyes pleading for absolution. Zarya turns, her wavy hair swaying, her blazer sharp against her frame. Start tomorrow, she says, her voice iron. And I want Sigrid Lorne on that team. She saw your truth. Elise's eyes widen, recalling Sigrid's trembling hands, her silence during the store incident. Zarya's demand is a gauntlet, forcing Elise to confront her staff's complicity. As Zarya moves toward the stage, the USB slips slightly in her pocket, catching on her blazer. She pauses, pulling it out, her fingers tracing the label. A faint logo on the drive matches the store's parent company, a clue to something darker. She hands it to Torren, her eyes blazing. Find out what this is, she says, her voice low. Urgent. Torren nods, his watch glinting as he tucks the drive away. Elise watches, her face paling, sensing a shift she can't control. The crowd's roar grows louder, the stage lights beckoning, and Zarya's heart drums with purpose. You're poking a hornet's nest, Okoye, Cal Draven snarls, his voice a low growl cutting through the San Francisco Tech Summit's backstage clamor. His pale face looms close, his tailored suit sharp, his blue eyes glinting with malice. Zarya Okoye stands firm, her sleek blazer hugging her frame, her long, wavy hair swaying, her small earrings catching the stage lights. Her fingers tighten around the USB labeled Project Eclipse, tucked in her pocket, its weight a burning secret after her confrontation with Elise Vorn. Kyle, the CEO of the tech store's parent company, towers over her, his presence a wall of authority, his white skin a stark contrast to her dark complexion. The summit's hum fades, but Zariah's pulse hammers, her jaw clenched so tight her teeth ache. She's just demanded Elise rewrite store policies, but Kale's sudden appearance signals a deeper threat. "You don't scare me," Zaria says, her voice a blade, slicing through his intimidation. Her dark eyes lock onto his, unyielding, her earrings glinting like defiance. Kyle's lips curl, a sneer that mirrors Thane's but is colder, more calculated. "You're a glitch in my system," he snaps, cutting her off before she can respond. "How to want a tech for all? It's a cute hashtag, but it's costing me millions." His hand slices the air, dismissing her, his cufflinks flashing. Zaria's blood roars, the memory of Thane's sneer, not our vibe, and Elise's threat fueling her fire. She steps closer, her heels clicking, her posture a quiet storm. "Your system thrives on exclusion," she says, her tone iron, each word a hammer. "I'm here to break it." Kyle's laugh is sharp, a whip crack that draws a stagehand's glance. "Break it?" he mocks, his voice loud enough to turn heads. "You're nothing but a loudmouth with a laptop." His words sting, but Zaria's face remains a mask, her nails digging into her palms. She's built CodeBridge from scratch, empowered thousands of teens, and no suit-wearing mogul will shrink her. Torrin Vale in his navy vest, glasses dark, watch gleaming, steps beside her, his green eyes narrowing. "Back off, Draven," he says, his voice low, lethal, his hand brushing Zaria's arm. Kel's gaze flicks to Torrin, recognizing the tech investor who funds the summit. "Vale," Cal says, his tone shifting, smoother but no less venomous. "Your wife's stirring trouble. My stores don't cater to her kind." The racial jab lands like a fist, and Zaria's chest tightens, her breath hitching. Torrin's jaw clenches, his watch catching the light as his fist curls. Zaria raises a hand, stopping Torrin. "My kind," she says, her voice rising, clear as a bell. "People who build futures? Who codes dreams into reality? That's who you're afraid of." Her words echo, drawing a crowd of summit attendees, their phones raised, capturing the standoff. Kale's smirk falters, his fingers twitching toward his phone. "You don't know what you're messing with," he says, his voice dropping to a hiss. "Project Eclipse keeps my stores elite. You're a threat to that." The mention of the USB's label sends a jolt through Zaria, her fingers brushing its outline in her pocket. Sigrid Lorne, the young employee from the store, lingers nearby, her pale hands clutching a clipboard, her brown eyes wide with fear. She'd slipped Zaria a note earlier, warning about Kale's involvement in something big. Now seeing him confront Zaria, Sigrid's breath catches, her fingers trembling. She knows Project Eclipse is no mere marketing plan. It's a directive to exclude customers like Zaria, to keep stores high-end by design. Her silence during the store incident haunts her, but Zaria's fire sparks something in her, a flicker of courage. Cal steps closer, his voice a blade. "Drop this, or I'll crush your little nonprofit." His threat hangs heavy, a noose tightening around Zaria's mission. She holds his gaze, her earrings glinting, her heart a drumbeat. "Try it," she says, her voice low, a promise etched in fire. The crowd murmurs, phones recording, as Kale's face hardens, his control slipping. He turns, his suit swishing, and storms off, but his words linger like poison. Zaria's fingers grip the USB, its secret pulsing, a weapon she doesn't yet understand. "You're digging your own grave, Okoye." Cal Draven's voice echoes in Zaria's mind, his thread of blade still twisting as she slips into a quiet corner of the San Francisco Tech Summit's green room. Her fingers clutch the USB labeled Project Eclipse, its weight a burning secret against her palm. Her long, wavy hair sways, catching the dim light, her small earrings glinting like sparks. Her sleek blazer hugs her frame, but her dark eyes blaze with purpose, her jaw clenched so tight her teeth grind. Kale's words, "My stores don't cater to her kind," fuel her fire, a reminder of Thane's sneer and Elise's dismissal at the tech store. Zaria's not just fighting for herself, she's fighting for every teen CodeBridge lifts up, every dream crushed by prejudice. She plugs the USB into her laptop, her pulse hammering, ready to crack its secrets. Torn veil in his navy vest, glasses dark, watch gleaming, leans over her shoulder, his green eyes narrowing at the screen. "Careful," he says, his voice low, urgent. "Dreven's not bluffing." Zarya's lips tighten, her fingers flying across the keys. "Neither am I," she says, her tone iron, each keystroke a defiance. The USB's files are encrypted, a maze of code, but Zarya's a coder forged in sleepless nights. She cracks the first layer, revealing a folder. Project Eclipse, internal directive. Her breath catches, her nails digging into her palms. "This is bigger than the store," she says, her voice a whisper, but it carries like thunder. The files reveal emails from Kyle to regional managers, including Elise Vorn. "Prioritize elite clientele," one reads. "Screen out low-value demographics." Zarya's blood roars, the words a mirror to Thane's sneer. "Not our vibe." The directive outlines a strategy to exclude customers like her. Black, brown, anyone who doesn't fit the high-end image. Her heart pounds, her fingers trembling as she opens another file, a data report showing thousands of rejected transactions, flagged by race and appearance. "They're rigging the system," Zarya says, her voice rising, sharp as a blade. Torren's fist clenches, his watch catching the light. "Draven's built an empire on this," he says, his tone lethal. Sigrid Lorne, the young employee, slips into the green room, her pale hands clutching a crumpled note, her brown eyes wide with fear. "I shouldn't be here," she whispers, her voice shaking, but she steps closer, her clipboard abandoned. "I heard Kale talking about Eclipse. It's not just one store, it's the whole chain." Zarya's eyes meet hers, a spark of gratitude flashing. "Tell me everything," Zarya says, her tone firm, her earrings glinting as she leans forward. Sigrid's hands tremble, but she spills. Late-night meetings, Kyle's orders to profile customers. Her own silence when Zarya was humiliated. "I was scared," Sigrid says, her voice breaking, her fingers twisting together. "But you made me see I can't stay quiet." Zarya nods, her jaw softening, but her focus stays razor-sharp. "You're with us now," she says, her voice a lifeline. She hands Sigrid a burner phone. "Contact anyone who's seen this." Sigrid's shoulders straighten, her fear eclipsed by purpose. She dials a former co-worker, Lila, who left the store after being pressured to enforce Eclipse. Lila's voice crackles through the phone, tense but clear. "They fired me for questioning it," she says. "I've got emails, Kale's orders, dates, names." Zarya's pulse quickens, her fingers flying to save the call's audio. "Send them," she says, her voice iron. Torren hacks into a secure server, his skills matching Zarya's, pulling deleted files from the store's cloud. His watch glints as he works, his jaw tight. "Got something," he says, his voice low. A memo surfaces, stamped with Kyle's digital signature, detailing bonuses for managers who uphold Eclipse standards. Zarya's nails bite into her palms, her blood boiling. "This is their playbook," she says, her tone a hammer. "They're profiting off prejudice." The green room feels smaller, the air thick with the weight of their discovery. Sigrid's phone buzzes, a text from Lila with a Dropbox link. Zarya opens it, finding screenshots of internal chats, managers bragging about turning away undesirables. Her chest tightens, the faces of her code-bridge teens flashing in her mind. Kids like Javier, who'd coded his way to a scholarship. "This ends now," she says, her voice rising, clear as a bell. She copies the files to a secure drive, her fingers steady despite the storm inside. A stagehand knocks, his voice sharp. "Okoye, you're on in 10. Zarya's eyes blaze, her wavy hair swaying as she stands. She tucks the USB into her pocket, its secret's a weapon. Torren grabs her hand, his grip firm. "We're close," he says, his voice a vow. Sigrid nods, her pale hands steady now, her fear burned away. Zarya's heart drums, her blazer sharp against her frame. She's not just walking to a stage, she's marching to a battlefield. "You think you can unravel my empire?" Kyle Draven's voice hisses in Zarya Okoye's memory, his threat a shadow as she huddles over her laptop in the San Francisco Tech Summit's green room. Her long, wavy hair falls over her shoulder, her small earrings glinting under the harsh light, her sleek blazer sharp against her frame. The USB labeled Project Eclipse sits beside her, its secrets partially cracked, revealing a web of prejudice woven into the tech store's core. Zaria's dark eyes burn, her jaw clenched so tight her teeth ache, the sting of Thane's sneer. Not our vibe. And Kale's menace fueling her fire. Her fingers fly across the keys, her pulse hammering as she digs deeper into the files Sigrid and Lila provided, each click a step closer to the truth. Torn veil in his navy vest, glasses dark, watch gleaming, leans close, his green eyes scanning the screen. "Push harder," he says, his voice low, urgent, his hand brushing her arm. Zaria nods, her nails biting into her palms as she breaks through the final encryption. A document loads titled Project Eclipse Long-Term Strategy. Her breath catches, her heart pounding like a drum. The file details a 5-year plan, signed by Kale himself, to systematically exclude low-value customers, black, brown, anyone not fitting the elite image, across the entire chain of stores. "This isn't just one store," Zaria says, her voice a blade, slicing through the room's hum. "It's a machine built to erase people like me." Sigrid Lorne, her pale hands trembling, clutches the burner phone, her brown eyes wide with shock. "I knew it was bad," she whispers, her voice cracking. "But it's deliberate." Zaria's gaze meets hers, a spark of shared fury. The document lists metrics, rejection rates, customer profiling algorithms, and even bonuses tied to maintaining brand exclusivity. Zaria's blood roars, her fingers gripping the laptop so hard her knuckles whiten. She sees her code-bridge teens in those numbers, kids like Javier, dismissed before they can even try. "They're profiting off hate," she says, her tone iron, each word a hammer. Torrin pulls up a linked email chain, his watch glinting as he scrolls. "Kyle's been at this for years," he says, his voice lethal. One email, dated 2 years ago, shows Kyle instructing managers to cleanse the customer base for investor appeal. Zaria's chest tightens, her breath hitching as she reads his words. "We don't serve the margins." The phrase is a knife, cutting deep, echoing every slight she's faced. Thane's mockery, Elise's threats, the world's endless judgment. Her fingers tremble, but she saves the file, her resolve a fire that won't dim. Sigrid's phone buzzes, a new message from Lila. "Check the audit trail." Zaria dives in, finding a hidden log of Kale's approvals, timestamps linking him to every Eclipse directive. "He can't deny this," Zaria says, her voice rising, clear as a bell. "This is his signature on every door slammed in our faces." The truth hits like a thunderclap. Project Eclipse isn't just policy. It's a calculated betrayal of fairness, designed to keep people like Zaria out. Her heart drums, her wavy hair swaying as she stands, her blazer sharp, her earrings catching the light. The stage manager's voice cuts through. "Okoye, 2 minutes!" Zaria's eyes blaze, her fingers brushing the USB, now a weapon loaded with truth. Torrin grabs her hand, his grip firm. "You've got him," he says, his voice a vow. Sigrid nods, her pale hands steady, her fear burned away. Zaria tucks the USB into her pocket, its weight a promise. She's not just exposing Kale. She's tearing down his empire for every kid told they don't belong. The stage awaits, its lights a beacon for her fight. "You're a pest I'll squash, Okoye," Cal Drebin snarls, his voice a venomous hiss cutting through the roar of the San Francisco Tech Summit's main stage. Zaria Okoye stands at the edge of the platform, her sleek blazer sharp against her frame, her long, wavy hair swaying, her small earrings glinting like sparks under the spotlight. The USB labeled Project Eclipse burns in her pocket, its secrets, Kale's 5-year plan to exclude low-value customers like her, now a loaded weapon. Her dark eyes lock on to Kyle's pale, sneering face, his tailored suit a flimsy shield against her fire. The summit's crowd buzzes, their phones raised, Now Tech for All trending like wildfire. Zaria's jaw clenches so tight her teeth grind, the sting of Thane's sneer and Elise's threats fueling her resolve. She's here to expose Kale, but his presence signals danger. "You don't get to silence me," Zaria says, her voice a blade slicing through the crowd's hum. Her heels click as she steps closer, her earrings catching the light. Her posture a quiet storm. Cale's blue eyes narrow, his hand slicing the air to cut her off. "You're out of your league," he snaps, his voice loud, a performance for the tech moguls watching. "Drop this, or code bridge is dust." His threat lands like a fist, and Zaria's pulse hammers, her nails biting into her palms. She's fought for every inch of her nonprofit, built it from a laptop in a cramped apartment, and no corporate titan will tear it down. Torrin Vale in his navy vest, glasses dark, watch gleaming, moves to her side, his green eyes blazing. "Threaten her again, Draven," he says, his voice low, lethal, his fist curling. Cal's smirk widens, his cufflinks flashing. "You're nothing without my summit, Vale," he says, cutting Torrin off. "And she's nothing, period." The racial jab stings, echoing Thane's, "Not our vibe." And Zarya's blood roars, her chest tightening. The crowd murmurs, some shifting uncomfortably, others typing furiously, their phones capturing every word. Kyle leans closer, his voice dropping to a hiss. "That USB? Hand it over or you'll regret stepping into my world." Zarya's fingers tighten around the drive in her pocket, its weight a burning promise. She'd cracked its files, emails, audits, Kale's signature on a plan to exclude people like her. "Your world's built on lies," she says, her tone iron, each word a hammer. "I'm here to burn it down." Kyle's face hardens, his hand twitching toward his phone. He texts someone, his fingers swift, and Zarya's heart skips, sensing a trap. Sigrid Lorne, the young employee, lingers at the stage's edge, her pale hands clutching a tablet, her brown eyes wide with fear. She'd warned Zarya about Kale's ruthlessness, her own guilt from staying silent at the store, pushing her to act. "He's got people," Sigrid whispers, her voice trembling as she slips beside Zarya. "They're watching you." Zarya's breath catches, her eyes scanning the crowd. A man in a dark jacket, his face shadowed, moves closer, his hand in his pocket. Her pulse spikes, her fingers gripping the USB tighter. The stage manager calls, "Okoye, you're up!" But Kyle steps forward, blocking her path. "Last chance," he says, his voice a blade. "Walk away, or I'll make sure you disappear." His words are a noose, tightening around Zaria's mission. She sees her code bridge teens in her mind. Javier, the girl with braids, their dreams at stake. Her resolve hardens, her earrings glinting as she pushes past Kale, her heels clicking toward the stage. But danger follows. As Zarya moves through the backstage corridor, the man in the dark jacket tails her, his steps silent but heavy. The corridor narrows, the hum of the summit fading. Zarya's heart pounds, her fingers brushing her phone, ready to call Torrin. The man quickens his pace, his hand emerging with a glint of metal, a key or something worse. Zarya's breath hitches, her jaw clenching as she ducks into a side room, slamming the door. The lock clicks, but the man's shadow looms under the frame, his knuckles rapping softly. "Open it, Okoye," he says, his voice low, menacing. Zarya's back presses against the wall, her wavy hair sticking to her neck, her blazer creased. She clutches the USB. Its secrets are her only weapon. Her mind races, her mother's words echoing, "You're everything." She's not trapped. She's a fighter. Her fingers find a fire alarm on the wall, and she pulls it. The blare shatters the silence. The man curses, his footsteps retreating. Zarya's chest heaves, her resolve a fire that won't dim. She's not just escaping. She's charging toward the truth. "You can't hide forever, Okoye," the shadowed man's voice snarls through the door, his knuckles rapping harder as the fire alarm's wail pierces the San Francisco Tech Summit's backstage corridor. Zarya Okoye presses against the wall, her sleek blazer creased, her long wavy hair sticking to her neck, her small earrings glinting faintly in the dim room. Her dark eyes blaze, her jaw clenched so tight her teeth grind. The USB labeled Project Eclipse clutched in her fist like a grenade. Its secrets, Cal Draven's plan to exclude low-value customers like her, fuel her resolve despite the danger closing in. Her pulse hammers, the memory of Cal's threat. "I'll make sure you disappear." And Thane's sneer burning like acid. She's not just fighting for herself, she's fighting for her code bridge teens. their dreams on the line. Zaria's fingers brush her phone, her thumb swiping to text Torrin Vale. Trapped. Side room. Man outside. Her heart pounds, but her mind stays sharp, honed by years of coding through chaos. She scans the room, a storage closet, stacked with cables and old monitors. Her breath steadies, her nails digging into her palms as she spots a vent near the ceiling. She kicks off her heels, her bare feet silent on the cold floor, and climbs a crate, her blazer tearing slightly as she pries the vent open. The alarm's blare masks the clatter, and she crawls through, the USB tucked in her pocket, her resolve a fire that won't dim. The vent leads to a service hallway, its hum drowned by the alarm. Zaria drops to the floor, her wavy hair tangled, her earrings catching the faint light. She sprints toward the green room, her phone buzzing. Torrin's reply, "Coming. Stay sharp." Her chest heaves, but she keeps moving, her bare feet slapping the tiles. She reaches the green room, where Sigrid Lorne waits, her pale hands trembling, her brown eyes wide with panic. "Zaria," Sigrid gasps, clutching a tablet. "Cal's goon. He's after the USB." Zaria's jaw tightens, her fingers brushing the drive. "He's not getting it," she says, her voice iron, each word a hammer. Torrin bursts in, his navy vest sharp, glasses dark, watch gleaming. His green eyes scan Zaria, his fist curled. "You okay?" he asks, his voice low, urgent, his hand grabbing hers. She nods, her earrings glinting as she hands him the USB. "We need more," she says, her tone a blade. "Something Kyle can't deny." Sigrid steps forward, her voice shaking but firm. "I recorded him," she says, her hands steadying as she pulls up an audio file on her tablet. "Last week, he bragged about a clips to investors." Zaria's pulse spikes, her eyes locking onto Sigrid's. "Play it," she says, her voice rising, clear as a bell. The audio crackles. Kale's voice, smug and cold. "Eclipse keeps our stores pure. No riffraff, just elite. Profits up 20%. Zaria's blood roars, her nails biting deeper into her palms. The recording is dynamite, tying Kale directly to the discriminatory plan. "This is it," she says, her tone lethal, her wavy hair swaying as she leans over the tablet. Torrin connects his phone to the summit's secure server, his fingers flying, his watch glinting. "I'm pulling their financials," he says, his voice a vow. "If Eclipse boosted profits, it's in their books." The server yields a hidden ledger, buried in encrypted folders. Torrin cracks it, revealing payouts to managers like Elise for enforcing Eclipse, each transaction stamped with Kale's approval. Zaria's chest tightens, her breath hitching as she reads the numbers. Millions funneled to exclude people like her. "This buries him," she says, her voice a hammer, her earrings catching the light as she saves the file. Sigrid's phone buzzes. A new email from Lila, the former employee. "Audit logs," Lila writes, attaching a file tracking Kale's orders to shred Eclipse documents. Zaria's heart drums, her fingers copying the logs to a secure drive. The stage manager's voice cuts through. "Okoye, 1 minute." Zaria stands, her blazer creased, but her posture unyielding, her wavy hair falling over her shoulders. She slips the USB back into her pocket, its weight a loaded gun. Torrin grabs her hand, his grip firm. "We've got enough," he says, his voice fierce. Sigrid nods, her pale hands steady, her fear burned away. "I'm with you," she says, her voice clear, a spark of courage ignited by Zaria. Zaria's mind races, the faces of her code-bridge teens. Javier, the girl with braids, flashing before her. She's not just exposing Kyle, she's tearing down a system that shuts them out. Her heels are gone, but her bare feet ground her, her resolve a fire that blazes brighter than the summit's lights. She moves toward the stage, the crowd's roar growing, phones raised, ready to capture her truth. The evidence, audio, ledgers, logs, is an arsenal, and Zaria's ready to fire. "You built your empire on lies, Drevin," Zaria Okoye's voice thunders, slicing through the San Francisco Tech Summit's roar as she grips the podium, her sleek blazer sharp against her frame, her long, wavy hair swaying under the spotlight. Her small earrings glint like blades, her dark eyes blazing as she faces the crowd. Phones raised, live streaming her every word. The USB labeled Project Eclipse sits in her pocket, its secrets. Kale Draven's 5-year plan to exclude low-value customers like her, now loaded into her presentation. Her jaw clenches so tight her teeth grind. The sting of Thane's sneer, Elise's threats, and Kale's menace fueling her fire. The summit's hum fades, the air thick with anticipation as Zarya holds the evidence. Audio, ledgers, logs, a guillotine for Kale's empire. Cal stands at the stage's edge, his pale face twisted, his tailored suit no shield. "You're bluffing," he snarls, cutting her off, his voice loud enough to draw gasps. Zarya's lips curve, a spark of defiance. "Bluffing?" she says, her tone iron, each word a hammer. She clicks her remote, and the screen behind her lights up with Kale's email. "Cleanse the customer base. No riffraff, just elite." The crowd murmurs, phones zooming in, Drashin Tech for all spiking on X. Kale's eyes widen, his fists curling, his cufflinks flashing as he steps forward. "That's fabricated," he shouts, but his voice cracks, betraying his panic. Zarya presses play, and Kale's voice fills the hall, smug and cold. "Eclipse keeps our stores pure. Profits up 20%. The crowd erupts, boos rising, moguls in suits shifting uncomfortably. Zarya's heart drums, her nails digging into the podium, her resolve a fire that won't dim. "This is your truth, Draven," she says, her voice rising, clear as a bell. "You profited by shutting out people like me, black, brown, anyone you deemed unworthy." Her words are a blade cutting through Kale's facade, exposing his rot. Torn veil in his navy vest, glasses dark, watch gleaming, stands in the wings, his green eyes locked on Zarya, his fist clenched with pride. Sigrid Lorne, beside him, clutches her tablet, her pale hands steady, her brown eyes shining with courage. She'd recorded Kyle's damning words, her guilt from the store incident, now fuel for Zarya's fight. "Keep going," Sigrid whispers, her voice firm, a spark ignited by Zarya's stand. Zarya nods, her earrings catching the light, and flips to the ledger. Millions in bonuses for managers like Elise, paid to enforce Eclipse. The crowd's boos grow louder, a tech exec in the front row, slamming his fist on his chair. Kyle lunges toward the podium, his face red, his voice a hiss. "You'll pay for this!" But Zarya steps forward, her barefoot stride, heels lost in her escape, grounding her. "No, you will," she says, her tone lethal. She displays Lila's audit logs, timestamps linking Kale to every Eclipse order. The screen flashes his signature, undeniable, and the crowd roars, phones capturing the moment. Isolde Wren, the smug customer from the store, sits in the third row, her tailored suit creased, her face pale, her earlier laughter now a weight. She grips her purse, her silence a confession. Zarya's voice rises, resonant, a beacon in the chaos. "This isn't just about me," she says, her wavy hair swaying, her blazer sharp. "It's about every kid told they don't belong, every dream you crushed for profit." She points to Javier, her code-bridge teen, in the audience, his tablet glowing with his scholarship app. The crowd cheers, some standing, their applause a tide lifting Zarya's mission. Kyle stumbles back, his suit rumpled, his empire crumbling under the weight of her truth. Elise Vorn, watching from the back, clutches her phone, her career in tatters. The Mioram Tech for All hashtag floods X, trending globally as Zarya's evidence spreads like wildfire. She lowers the remote, her dark eyes sweeping the room, her posture unyielding. "Your time's up, Draven," she says, her voice a final hammer, shattering his control. The crowd's roar shakes the hall, and Kale's face drains of color, his defeat bare for all to see. "Your empire's dust, Draven," Zarya Okoye's voice echoes, a final blade slicing through the stunned silence of the San Francisco Tech Summit's main hall. Her sleek blazer hugs her frame, her long, wavy hair swaying, her small earrings glinting under the spotlight as she steps back from the podium. The screen behind her still glows with Kale Draven's damning evidence, emails, ledgers, audio, exposing his Project Eclipse plan to exclude customers like her. Her dark eyes blaze, her jaw clenched so tight her teeth grind. The crowd's cheers a tide lifting her triumph. Kale stands frozen at the stage's edge, his pale face drained, his tailored suit rumpled, his blue eyes wide with defeat. The shocker Tech for All hashtag floods phones, trending globally as Zarya's truth shatters his empire. Kyle's voice cracks, a desperate hiss. "You can't prove intent," he shouts, cutting through the crowd's boos, his hands slashing the air. Zarya's lips curve, a spark of defiance. "Your signature's on every page," she says, her tone iron, each word a hammer. The crowd roars louder, tech moguls standing, their applause shaking the hall. Kyle's cufflinks flash as he stumbles back, his phone slipping from his hand. Notifications piling up, his board demanding answers. Zarya's chest heaves, her nails digging into her palms, the sting of Thane's sneer, and Elise's threats now ashes in her victory. Torrin Vale in his navy vest, glasses dark, watch gleaming, strides to her side, his green eyes burning with pride. "You did it," he says, his voice low, his hand gripping hers. Sigrid Lorne, her pale hands steady, steps forward, her brown eyes shining. "We did it," she says, her voice clear, her courage forged by Zarya's fire. Elise Vorn, in the back, clutches her phone, her blazer creased, her career in tatters. The store's parent company issues a statement. Kyle's fired, effective immediately. Thane, back at the store, faces suspension, his smirk gone, his hands trembling as he packs his things. Zarya's heart drums, her wavy hair swaying as she faces the crowd. "This is for every kid told they don't belong," she says, her voice rising, a beacon in the chaos. Javier, her code-bridge teen, stands in the audience, his tablet glowing, his shy smile breaking free. The crowd cheers, phones capturing Zarya's triumph. Bashar Tech for All, a global cry. Kale slinks off, his empire crumbling, the weight of justice crushing his arrogance. Zarya's barefoot stride, heels lost in her escape, grounds her resolve eternal. "You broke us, Okoye, now fix it." Elise Vorn's voice trembles, her pale hands clutching a tablet as she faces Zarya Okoye in a packed San Francisco community center, days after the tech summit's seismic fallout. Zarya stands tall, her sleek blazer swapped for a crisp white shirt, her long, wavy hair cascading, her small earrings glinting under the fluorescent lights. Her dark eyes burn, her jaw clenched so tight her teeth grind. The triumph of exposing Kale Draven's Project Eclipse still pulsing in her veins. The crowd, teens, parents, tech workers, watches, phones raised. Nor Tech for All, a global roar. Elise's blazer hangs loose, her career hanging by a thread. But Zarya's fire, sparked by Thane's sneer and Kale's threats, demands more than apologies. It demands change. "I'm not here to fix your mess," Zarya says, her voice a blade, slicing through the room's hum. Her heels click as she steps forward, her posture a quiet storm. "You're here to fix yours." Elise flinches, her fingers twisting around the tablet, her nails biting into her palms. "We're rewriting policies," she says, her voice thin, rushed. "Training starts tomorrow." Zarya's lips curve, a spark of defiance. "Not good enough," she says, her tone iron, each word a hammer. "You'll partner with CodeBridge. Train every employee to see worth, not skin." The crowd murmurs, some nodding, others typing furiously, their support a tide lifting Zarya's mission. Torrin Vale in his navy vest, glasses dark, watch gleaming, stands beside her, his green eyes fierce. "Your chain's bleeding customers," he says, his voice low, lethal, his hand brushing Zarya's. "Make this right, or you're done." Elise's face pales, her breath hitching as she nods. "We'll fund your workshops," she says, her voice breaking, her eyes darting to the crowd. Zarya's heart drums, her wavy hair swaying as she leans forward. "And you'll hire Sigrid Lorne to lead them," she says, her tone a command, not a request. Sigrid, her pale hands steady, steps forward, her brown eyes shining with purpose. "I'm in," she says, her voice clear, forged by Zarya's courage. She'd stayed silent at the store, but now her apron gone, she's a warrior. Zarya nods, her earrings catching the light, a spark of gratitude flashing. You'll teach them to see, she says, her voice a lifeline. Elise scribbles on her tablet, her hands trembling, her commitment a fragile vow under Zaria's gaze. The community center buzzes as Zaria unveils Tech for All, a code bridge campaign to train retail workers nationwide to dismantle bias. She gestures to Javier, her teen prodigy, who holds his tablet, its scholarship app glowing. This is who we fight for, Zaria says, her voice rising, resonant. Kids whose dreams you'd dismiss. The crowd cheers, parents hugging their teens, tech workers pledging support. Elise steps back, her tablet clutched tight, her guilt a weight she can't shed. Torrin pulls out his phone, his watch glinting as he texts his network. I'm doubling Code Bridge's funding, he says, his voice a vow, his green eyes locked on Zaria. Expand to every city. Zaria's chest tightens, her mother's words echoing. You're everything. She sees her teens, Javier, the girl with braids, in every corner of the room, their faces alight with hope. Her nails dig into her palms, her resolve a fire that blazes brighter than ever. A local salon owner, inspired by Maestro Tech for All, offers free space for workshops. A tech exec in the crowd raises his hand, pledging servers for Code Bridge's online platform. The room erupts, applause shaking the walls, phones capturing the moment. Zaria's wavy hair sways as she steps to a podium, her shirt crisp, her presence a beacon. This isn't charity, she says, her voice clear as a bell. It's justice. The crowd roars, their cheers a chorus of change. Elise, pushed by the tide, signs a contract on her tablet, linking the store chain to Tech for All. Sigrid takes the mic, her voice steady. I saw prejudice and stayed silent, she says, her eyes meeting Zaria's. Now I'll teach others to speak. The crowd cheers louder, teens rushing to hug her, their hope a spark Zaria lit. Zaria's heart drums, her earrings glinting as she watches. Her mission no longer hers alone. It's a movement. You thought you could dim my light, but I'm a fire you can't touch, Zaria Okoye's voice rings out. A clarion call slicing through the vibrant hum of a San Francisco community center, weeks after her triumph at the Tech Summit. Her crisp white shirt glows under the lights, her long wavy hair cascading, her small earrings glinting like stars. Her dark eyes blaze, her jaw clenched so tight her teeth grind. The memory of Cale Dreven's threats, Thane's sneer, and Elise's dismissal now fuel for her mission. The room pulses with energy, teens, parents, tech workers, all gathered for the launch of Tech for All. Zaria's Code Bridge campaign to train retail workers to dismantle bias. Phones flash, reshape Tech for All, trending globally, a beacon of change sparked by her stand. Zaria's heart drums, her resolve a fire that burns eternal. She stands at a podium, her posture a quiet storm, her shirt tucked neatly into jeans. A nod to the day she was humiliated at the tech store. This is for every kid told they don't belong, she says, her voice rising, clear as a bell. Javier, her Codebridge teen, stands nearby, his tablet glowing with his scholarship app, his shy smile now bold. The girl with braids, another student, holds a poster. Code your future. The crowd cheers, their applause a tide lifting Zaria's vision. Her nails dig into her palms, her mother's words echoing, "You're everything." This isn't just a win, it's a revolution. Torrin Vale, in his navy vest, glasses dark, watch gleaming, leans against a wall, his green eyes shining with pride. He steps forward, his hand brushing Zaria's, his voice low. "You've changed the game," he says, his tone fierce. A vow. He's doubled Code Bridge's funding, expanding it to Chicago, Seattle, and New York. Zaria's lips curve, a spark of gratitude flashing. "We're just starting," she says, her earrings catching the light, her voice a promise. The crowd murmurs, phones capturing every word, their support a chorus of hope. Sigrid Lorne, her pale hands steady, steps to the mic, her brown eyes bright with purpose. Her apron long gone, she's now a Tech for All trainer, her voice clear. "I stayed silent once," she says, her gaze meeting Zaria's. "Now I teach others to speak." She shares her first workshop's success, retail workers learning to spot bias, to see worth in every face. The crowd erupts, teens rushing to hug her, their laughter a spark Zarya lit. Sigrid's shoulders straightened, her fear burned away, her courage a mirror of Zarya's fire. Elise Vorn in the back clutches a tablet, her blazer creased, her face pale but resolute. She signed contracts linking the store chain to Tech for All, her career salvaged by action, not words. "We're rolling out training nationwide," she says, her voice thin but firm, her hands trembling as she faces the crowd. Zarya nods, her eyes piercing. "Keep it real," she says, her tone iron, a warning Elise can't ignore. The crowd cheers, their phones flashing, as Elise steps back, her guilt a weight she'll carry, but her commitment a step toward redemption. Isolde Wren, the smug customer from the store, sits in the third row, her tailored suit replaced by a simple dress, her face flushed with shame. She approaches Zarya after the event, her hands twisting a check for Codebridge. "I was wrong," she says, her voice breaking, her eyes averted. Zarya takes the check, her jaw softening, but her gaze firm. "Use your voice next time," she says, her tone a lifeline, not forgiveness. Isolde nods, her silence a confession, her donation a quiet atonement. A teen girl with starry nail polish, inspired by Javier's app, tugs Zarya's sleeve. "I want to code like you," she says, her voice shy, her eyes bright. Zarya kneels, her wavy hair swaying, her earrings glinting. "You already do," she says, her voice warm, her hand squeezing the girl's. "Build your dreams." The girl's smile breaks free, her nails sparkling as she clutches a Codebridge flyer, her future unwritten but bright. Zarya's heart swells, her mother's sacrifices, nights at the nail salon. Now a legacy in these kids. The community center's walls lined with posters of empowered teens, pulse with possibility. A local salon owner offers free space for workshops, a tech exec pledges servers, and a teacher vows to bring Codebridge to her school. Zarya's vision spreads, partnerships with startups and salons fueling Tech for All's reach. Sigrid's workshops become a model, training programs sprouting in cities nationwide. The Tech for All video, sparked by the summit, trends for weeks, stories pouring in, people sharing their own fights against bias. Their voices a chorus Zarya unleashed. Zarya steps outside, the San Francisco night cool against her skin, the skyline glittering like a crown. Torin joins her, his watch catching the starlight, his hand finding hers. "What's next?" he asks, his voice a challenge, his grin fierce. Zarya's eyes blaze, her wavy hair fluttering in the breeze. "Everything," she says, her voice a vow, resonant. Sigrid follows, her steps light, her apron a distant memory. "You showed me I can fight," she says, her voice firm, her eyes shining. Zarya pauses, her shirt crisp, her jeans grounding her. She sees her teens, Javier, the girl with starry nails, in the city's pulse, their dreams no longer bound by counters or prejudice. The tech store, now a relic, dims under new policies, its customers flocking to competitors who embrace inclusivity. Zarya's journey, from a dismissed customer to a beacon of change, proves that worth shines beyond appearances. Her fire burns on, a challenge to rise, to fight, to be seen. The skyline stretches before her, a canvas for justice. Zarya's heart drums, her earrings glinting as she looks to Torin, then Sigrid, then the stars. "This is what we build," she says, her voice low, a spark in the night. The city hums, ready for her next battle, her legacy a light that won't fade. Zarya Okoye's journey proves that true worth shines through talent and courage, not skin or status. Her fight against prejudice sparked a movement, showing that every voice can shatter injustice. What did her story stir in you? Have you faced or fought bias like Zarya? Drop your thoughts below, share your own stories, and tell us where you're watching from. Your voice matters. Thank you for joining us on this ride. Your support fuels our fire. Hit subscribe, keep shining, and we'll see you soon for another